everybody. Welcome to the Pro Tour viewing party. I'm really excited. It's been a minute since I've had a chance to sit down and watch Pro Tours on a monitor. I'm really excited about it. We had a couple different options here this weekend to join us on the stage. One of them is one of my favorite Magic players of all time, Reed Duke. We're going to bring Reed Duke out right now. He's going to help us talk about this Pioneer format and tell us what's going on. We got a bunch of giveaways. We're going to be giving away some Fallout collector boosters. We've got some Fallout commander decks. We've got some secret layers. So if you're in the room and you're not over here, you should come on over. It's going to be pretty cool. Reed, we may be joined at some point by Simon Nielsen if he's not in the finals, but we'll find out about that. And possibly Andrea Mengucci, who is right now trying to qualify to get back on the Pro Tour. He has one match to go. We'll find out how that goes. So let's have a seat. Let's pick up the action here. Reed, set the stage here for me about this matchup, and we got to talk about some weird stuff that can happen here.
Yeah, most definitely some weird stuff. So the first thing to mention is that these two guys are teammates. They practice together. They helped each other choose their decks. So they're going to know all the ins and outs, know each other's tricks. And my experience with Christopher's Amalia deck is that you got to be prepared for weird stuff to happen. Like every corner case, people with 150 life, decks getting milled out or 3/4 milled out. Just watch out for weird stuff to happen. This matchup in particular, should we go through the weirdest one?
So the Amelia combo, right? Amelia gets a counter every time you gain a life, and then if it gets to 20 counters, if it gets to 20 power?
Yeah, exactly. So the combo is whenever you explore, Amalia triggers. No, excuse me. Whenever you gain life, Amalia triggers to explore.
Yeah.
And whenever you explore, your Wild Growth Walker gains you life. So you see how those two again and again. There's a reset button built into Amalia, which is that when it reaches 20 power, it destroys all other creatures. However, if that reset button is somehow missed or doesn't get the Wild Growth Walker off of the battlefield, then the two cards will just continue to loop and loop and loop, and there's no way built into the rules of Magic the Gathering to stop that. So the result is that if neither player can stop
We're just here till Monday.
We're here till Monday, yeah. Actually, what happens is eventually the judge will just intervene and say, okay, the game is over, pick up your cards and start again.
So conceivably, we're playing 2-3 wins, best out of 5. Conceivably, we could see, according to Frank Karsten, 6 or 7 games in this semifinal matchup. And it's not, I checked, I was like, oh, well, if it's like 2 wins, 1 loss, and 2 ties, 2 draws, is that good enough to win? It's like, no, you have to get to 3 wins. So and these players know this exists and know maybe in a bad situation that's an out for them.
Right, yeah, so to put it this way, if Chris is doing his thing, if he's comboing off with his deck, Simon might face 2 choices. Either he lets Chris combo and loses the game, or he makes it something weird happen and he gets another chance to try again. So that's probably part of his strategy, like a get out of jail free card kind of thing.
All right, this is well. And then let's talk about Simon Nielsen for a second, because we've got this crazy combo deck here with Christopher Larson, his teammate. Simon is playing like a Boros beatdown deck.
Yep, yeah, this is Boros Heroic, which is not a brand new deck, but it has picked up some new weapons and was like kind of overperformed expectations at the Pro Tour. It's a really cool deck. I would compare this to, if anyone is familiar with an Infect deck in any format, where the goal is basically get 1 hard-hitting creature, pump it up, pump it up, pump it up, protect it, you're dead. So it's very, very fast, very, very scary. And I'm really not too sure what to expect from the matchup, because traditionally the Amalia deck is really successful against other creature strategies. But traditionally the Historic deck is really successful against anyone who doesn't have a lot of removal spells. So I would really believe either side if you were to try to convince me that one of these players was favored over the other.
Yeah, I believe it is actually 50-50 throughout the Swiss.
Oh, okay, that's a cool
you know, as
stat.
these decks faced off against each other. So it is pretty evenly matched. I do think, I believe Simon won in the Swiss when these guys played specifically this matchup, but it is considered to be very even. Now, let's talk about Simon Nielsen specifically, not just in this tournament, but over his last few tournaments.
So Brian, I think the first game was a draw.
Wait. Yeah,
it's hard to tell based on the player's body language, but Christopher put his combo onto the battlefield. Amalia, Wild Growth Walker, away to gain life. And Simon showed Lauren's Escape. What that does is it can make any creature indestructible. So you make the Wild Growth Walker indestructible. There's no way for the combo to stop itself. And I mean, unless we missed something, I see no circles filled in from either player. So I think that game was just scrap it and start again. Holy cow.
Wow. Wow. Okay. This is great. So Simon Nielsen has a chance to do multiple things that have never been done in Magic before.
Okay.
So he has a chance to play a 6 or 7 game set, but he's already in his 4th Sunday in 4 consecutive tournaments. Nobody in Magic history has accomplished this.
That's amazing.
Right? John Finkel has not accomplished this. Kai Buddha has not accomplished this. You have not accomplished this. I mean, there are people who don't lose when they play Magic very much, and I consider you to be in that category. And to make 4 top 8s in a row is just as outstanding. What have you seen from Simon that's let him play at this level?
I mean, Simon is awesome. Like, he's a really, really easy player to root for because he's so nice. He obviously loves Magic. He's very passionate. And all of those qualities can be kind of like disarming. Like he's not a really stern, intimidating guy who you're like, oh, like it's obvious how, you know, tough a competitor he is. Like he's there, he's having fun, he's joking around.
He's got pins on his tie.
Yeah, totally. But if you watch him, and you know, now you watch his results, it's obvious that this guy just is really something special and knows what's up.
That's amazing. Did you play either of these guys in the main event?
No. Okay. I never got that good of a record.
So have you played against this combo deck at all?
So I practiced against Amalia, and I found it to be a really scary deck. That looks like a concession from Chris.
Yeah,
a quick 1-0-1 in Simon's favor. But yeah, Amalia's a scary deck. It can do a lot of really cool stuff. I did face Boros Heroic 3 times to a 2-1 record.
Okay.
And that could potentially be interesting because one of the other players on the other side of the bracket is playing the same deck as me. So that's a matchup that we could see.
And this was the Rakdos Vampires deck.
Exactly.
So I can tell people what happened in the rest of the bracket. You know, so Christopher Larson beat Alex Friedrichsen. Friedrichsen was playing the Lotus combo. He beat him in the quarterfinals. Simon Nielsen beat Adam Edelson playing Is It Phoenix in the quarterfinals. Ming Yang Chan playing Lotus combo beat Sam Pardee, who was on the Rakdos Vampire deck. And then Jean-Emmanuel Dupree on Is It lost to Seth Manfield, who I can tell you has made his way up through the bracket and is waiting for the winner of this match.
Okay, that's awesome.
In the finals.
Yes, that's my teammate. We played the same deck, so certainly
you didn't know that at this point?
Some rooting, you know, to go for him. And yeah, I mean, it's awesome to get to watch him in the finals against either of these players.
Yeah, and that's the Rakdos Vampire match you just alluded to.
Yep.
So what's going on here?
Okay, so here we have Chris on the play. This is a turn 1 Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize is pretty effective against Heroic because sometimes you can take their only creature, sometimes you can leave them with creatures but no way to pump them up. But it looks like in this case, Simon has a pretty kind of Thoughtseize-proof hand. It's pretty resilient. He has multiple creatures. So Chris has an option to take Spike Field Hazard and maybe hope Simon misses a land drop. Looks like he's going to take the Monstrous Rage, which makes sense to me as that's kind of the highest damage output card.
I hate that card.
Yeah, it's not fun when you try to block and get Monstrous Rage.
This is a painful Thoughtseize here for Christopher, right? He's got, is that a mana confluence that he's using to cast it?
Yep. So, you know, the Amalia deck is famous for, like, it can gain 100 life
Right.
and end a game at 150, whatever it might be. But if he doesn't get to that point, then he does have to sweat his life total against the aggressive Boros deck. So we'll see.
Right, here he already goes down to 16. And there, okay, so a card I never expect to see, but I guess you just want to explore triggers.
Yep. So the C-Note Scout can get you on the board early, which it's important for the Amalia deck to build out its board of creatures because of Chord of Calling. You want to get some creatures out there and then be able to find your key 2-drops. And then also it's a way to start the combo to give you your first Explore to trigger Wild Growth Walker.
So the Illuminator Virtuoso, I assume you were talking about like that infect quality where the creature just gets completely out of hand, double strike, trample, you know, start putting a lot of you know, Ancestral Anger gives it plus some number and trample and etc.
Right, and the Connive ability helps you dig to more of those pump spells, so it can get really nasty really quickly.
Okay.
Looks like Chris is struggling a little bit. He kept a 1 mana confluence hand, so he both has missed a land drop, and that damage that you mentioned, Brian, is accumulating turn after turn of having to tap the confluence.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've all been on the other side of a Monastery Swift Spear when you're like, just need to get to your 3rd land, and they're just like, nope, I am just going to take away as many turns as I can possibly take away from you. If you had to pick one side of this matchup to play, I mean, you're sort of famously in between these two, as your mid-range master. Which are you more comfortable with?
I think the Amalia deck appeals to me more, but it's a really like intricate deck, so I wouldn't want to pick it up without having a handful of games practice. But I think it's really cool, and it gives you a lot of like flexibility, you know, Chord of Calling to search for whatever key creature is best in a given situation. So I like those creature-based combo decks. How about you?
I'm gonna just Boros here, right?
Okay, good idea.
I don't want I want the game to go as few turns as possible. And this is like this looks like my favorite draft deck from the heroic format. Which format was that? That was
Theros block.
Theros, yeah.
Yep.
I doubt he's got the 2/2 flyer for 3 in the deck.
That was a little outclassed at this point.
That's in Boros Heroic mid-range. Yeah.
But Heroic was, I remember this was a deck, you know, in the early days of Pioneer. Sometimes they played Feather, which was a 3-mana creature.
Sure.
But the more sets get added to the format, the more it just picks up these super efficient 1-mana spells. Like the Illuminator Virtuoso was huge, Ancestral Anger. The latest one from the new set, which has been doing a lot of work, is Fugitive Codebreaker.
Okay.
This is a 2/1 haste prowess, so right there, that already sounds pretty good. But you can play it face down as a disguised creature, and then it has an effect that's similar to the old card Bedlam Reveler, where you discard your hand, draw 3 cards. So that's a perfect reload, you know, after the Boros deck has played out all of its 1-mana spells and emptied its hand really quickly.
All right, Christopher's on 13 here. Now, how good is this deck at coming back? Like, sort of being able to, does it need to be doing something incrementally every turn, or can it have a turn which really gets them back in the game?
It's very explosive, and it can get you out of nowhere. This is a relatively safe turn for Simon because Chris, he doesn't have either lands or creatures, so you're not going to see, like, you know, multiple spells plus Chord of Calling. But you know, if Chris gets 2 more turns in this game, he could certainly make something big happen. Don't count him out just yet.
All right, who in the audience thinks Simon is going to win this match? Let's get a little whoop here for Simon.
We're seeing a lot of hands.
All right, anybody here on Team Christopher? All right, I'll tell you what. Right here, Fallout booster. Fallout Collector's booster for you. And then I'm going to throw one more just way back. I don't believe those are out yet, so I don't know. I don't know if I was supposed to take them or not, but we're giving them away.
He's in a box back there, yeah.
All right,
So Brian, should we put in perspective what the best of 5 series looks like?
Yeah. Oh yeah, sideboarding, right?
Yeah. So first of all, this is a long series. The players kind of get to know each other's moves, and there's a little bit of like outguessing the opponent when it comes to sideboarding. But importantly, the structure is that you play 2 games with your pre-board deck. Then after that, you move to potentially 3 sideboarded games.
I don't know the answer to my question, and I don't think you know the answer to my question either.
No one does. So what's the question?
What counts as 2 games here? Is it 2 match results, or does the drawn game and then the game won by Simon mean they're in sideboarded mode right now?
I am not sure the answer to that. We did see a Thoughtseize in this game, which I don't know if it's in Christopher's main deck, but...
Okay, I am getting some information about this. In the event of a draw, the player who was on the play in the drawn game is on the play that next game, so you don't lose the play.
Okay.
You don't have to re-roll.
All right, so that's important.
But I don't have an answer as to when they can start sideboarding. Yeah, you're saying the Thoughtseize is not main deck?
Well, I'm not sure, but I would not be surprised if that was a card that had come off of Chris's sideboard.
Yeah, this is weird, uncharted territory.
Totally.
Yeah, and there's like a chat that's going on throughout the tournament with people, and I kept seeing things about keeping track of drawn games. And I was doing Commander stuff and doing Commander and cocktails, so I was like, how many drawn games can there be? But apparently this is just something that has been happening, and we just saw it here, so. All right, we see that Christopher has managed to muster a little bit of a board state here.
He played Extraction Specialist, which was really the key card to help him come back after his slow start. So 3/2 lifelink, and when it enters the battlefield, he gets to revive a creature from his graveyard. So this is a way that Chris managed to add 3 permanents to the battlefield. So that's like, if you're new to the matchup and you just want a quick and dirty, like, who's winning,
give it to me.
You can kind of look at how many permanents the Amalia deck has, because whether it's a land or a creature, it can be used for Court of Calling to assemble the combo. And the wider he can build out his board, the more resources available to him, the more moves he can have at his fingertips. So to go from 2 lands to this kind of more robust board does bode well for Chris if he's able to untap for 1 more turn.
Right. And a lifelinker can be something of almost like a time walk. Yep. In this, like gives you one extra turn sometimes to survive, which is why we've killed it. All right. So have you signed a lot of things this weekend, Reed?
I have, yeah.
You have? You did. Has anybody in the audience gotten something signed by Reed Duke this weekend?
No, I want to. This weekend, but we played each other at TP Louisville in 2017.
Wow,
All right.
2017,
You have something
Brian.
signed by Reed with you.
I kept the match slip because you won that event, by the way.
So what we're hearing from the audience is that you played someone in Louisville in 2017, an event you won.
Okay.
And they played you, and they kept the match slip as a souvenir from that event, and that's signed by you.
That is super cool.
I'm definitely gonna put a pack on that. That's awesome.
Thanks for remembering, by the way.
Now, Reed's just gonna get sidetracked talking about old Legacy tournaments.
Yeah, let's turn this off. Let's put some 2017 coverage.
We could get the Louisville replay up here. That's awesome. All right, Christopher's down to 4.
So the dynamic of this matchup from like a tournament perspective, sometimes you think about, blue-white control mirror where the games go 100 turns and they take a really, really long time. These games are going to be compressed in terms of their number, the number of turns each player gets, but the number of decisions is still going to be super, super large. And any one of those decisions, if you misstep, if you play your card into the opponent's removal spell, it could be the difference in the game. So don't be surprised if, especially at these stakes, the players kind of take their time and dig into these complicated combat steps and tough decisions.
Does the fact that their teammates lengthen that time or shorten that time?
It's a good question. I mean, there are table judges, right? So even if you want to like be a nice guy and you not rush your opponent, all that stuff, the judges are still there to enforce the tournament rules. And the rules say, you get a certain amount of time on each decision. You can't play too slowly. You have to finish your match in a certain designated time. So you can't take forever.
Right.
It's not an untimed situation. But basically, the way I approach a matchup like this is I consider my time bank as like a resource, and I want to use it as effectively as I can without breaking the rules.
Got it. So even though this has taken a while, we're really only 4 or 5 turns into this game.
This is a classic Chris move, which he's playing hard, right? He's like, I want to find the best chance to win, but he's also just having a great time with his teammate. And he's like, Simon, you held me here. Let me show you my hand. Let's together see what I can do with this really complicated combo deck.
Are you dead?
I don't know. If these players can't figure it out, how am I supposed to know?
So he's got we see the Wild Growth Walker, we see the Court of Calling.
He has a treasure there from the previous Prosperous Innkeeper. So he can chord for 1. He's going to get this. If he has a C-Note Scout in his deck, then he can start the combo. But he may not have it if he sideboarded it out, or if he only has 1 and it's on the battlefield. Oh my
gosh, okay.
So, wow. So there exists a creature in Magic where Chris would have won the game if he got the 1-mana Explore card to start his combo, but it looked like he only has access to 1 and he'd already drawn it. Can you believe that?
Wow. So that was just I'm going to chord and check.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Okay, so Simon is up 2 games to 0. This is the 4th game of the match, though, because there was a draw to start things out. And there it is. There's the Swift Spear. All right, I need someone who likes Christopher Larson this game. Who's picking Christopher Larson this game? Okay, you. We got you, and then I'm
going to go Christopher Larson this game.
I need 1 person, and then I need someone for Simon. I got you right up here. So here's what's going to happen at the end of this game. If Simon wins, I've got a Fallout Commander deck. So if Simon wins, you get that. If he loses, you're going to get a Chaos Draft set of boosters, and then the same for you right there. Okay.
Come on, Simon!
By the way, it's advisable to sit closer to the front because I really can't see you if you're in the back, and you're much less likely to get picked.
Looking pretty good for Team Chris here. It's now Simon's turn to miss a land drop. Chris is building out with his Prosperous Innkeeper, left behind a treasure token. Now he's got Wild Growth Walker. However, I know from playing against this heroic deck that it can still be pretty scary even with only 1 or 2 mana.
Well, also, it means your hand is just full of stuff
no
that
doubt.
you can just deploy.
Mm-hmm.
There you get a look at the text on Wild Growth Walker.
So Simon's playing his Defiant Strikes and Ancestral Angers to try to draw into his second land,
Wow,
but
and he's still just
bricked
not
again.
hitting the land. All right, this looks pretty good for Christopher here. The universal hand gesture of, I just keep doing this.
Okay, so this is exploring. So he is putting the lands that he hits directly into his hand, and Simon has conceded.
All right. All right. We got a Chaos draft set for you.
Thank you.
And we've got a Fallout Commander deck for you. Awesome. We were going to do like a let's make a deal thing where people could like pay. I just don't want to give anyone the whammy prize, so we're just going to give all the good stuff away.
Only good stuff.
All right, so 2-1 with 1 tie. So this is our 5th game, but it might not decide the match.
That's a weird one. Okay, I see that Simon is starting with 6 cards, 1 mulligan, but he's on the play, and that's really, really huge in a fast matchup like this.
Sacred Foundry, Shock Myself, go?
Not what you see every day. So Simon is representing an instant, like we see Torch the Tower on the screen. That's certainly one thing that he could have. Remember, this is a super high level of competition, so these players are capable of making it seem like they have something that they really don't.
Sure.
But in this case, Chris is doing us a favor casting Thoughtseize, and we see that Simon does indeed have Torch the Tower. This is what I mentioned in the previous game. It's kind of the best case scenario for Thoughtseize is you get to take away their 1 creature, and then, you know, all the combat tricks and pump spells in the world do nothing if you have no creature on the battlefield.
All right. So now, so what was the creature that Christopher took?
That's the 10th District Legionnaire.
Oh, sure.
It's one of the nice ones. It has haste and picks up a +1/+1 counter every time you target it.
So really slow draw now here for Simon, and combo piece on the board for Christopher Larson.
Yup. Importantly, you see how Chris deployed a 3 toughness creature after knowing that Simon kind of wanted to use his mana in his turn on Torch the Tower.
But
Yeah, 1 turn late, but this is huge. This keeps Simon in the game. I think if he had missed on a creature for 1 or 2 more turns, I would have been ready to call it in favor of Chris. But here, you know, Simon is very much in it. The Legionnaire can help him scry to more action to kind of bail him out from an otherwise awkward draw.
and then Christopher Larson has at this point still perfect information about what's in Simon's hand because the District Guard was the card he drew this turn.
I think that's right, yeah.
So there's another Wild Growth Walker, and now 2 Explore triggers.
Yeah, so this is cool. I mean, this is old-fashioned. Wild Growth Walker used to get played just for face value, right? Just gain some life, make a 3/5 creature, and that might be good enough in this game where Simon has a little bit of a slower, more awkward draw.
Hey, look at this. Christopher Larson is getting his beatdown on.
Yeah. So Homestead Courage is a nice one because this is a 1-mana spell that also flashes back for 1 mana.
Right.
So he's going to get a lot of firepower out of 1 card, multiple scries to try to find his next play.
Ends up putting 2 counters on the Legionnaire because 1 from itself and then 1 from the Legionnaire's ability.
Exactly. So what Simon could do is he could Torch the Tower on the smallest creature, which then gives Chris a little bit of pressure to maybe chump block with the Wild Growth Walker. But he may also choose to hold on to Torch the Tower to kill, Amalia later on. This is where, Simon's going to have to decide how he wants to approach the game.
All right, who's going for Christopher here? Let's hear the crowd. And then who thinks Simon's going to be able to pull this out? You think Simon's just going to win his way into the finals this round? Okay.
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 Who's got draw? Who's got
draw?
no
Yeah. If it's a draw, Reed wins, and I'll give him a Fallout deck.
All right.
So this is a very weird. Both players behaving like out of character for their decks. I mean, we see Simon passing the turn with his creature untapped, which doesn't happen very often.
That was actually the Homestead Courage gives vigilance. And
Oh,
it was
okay.
a jump block with the,
Okay.
with the scout.
Oh, okay. But Fatal Push took care of the guard.
Yep, so there you see a very meaningful change from the pre-board to the post-sideboard games. Chris just with the super efficient removal spell, which is exactly what you want against Boros Heroic.
And we see flashing back. What was he doing with the paper there? Okay. So he takes 4.
The Sentinel of the Nameless City produces a map token every time it attacks, and that's pretty nasty with double Wild Growth Walker.
Oh, sure.
However, you see that Simon navigated in such a way that he can like block and successfully kill a creature, potentially at least.
And we see those Wild Growth Walkers just... I love this idea of when decks pivot.
Yep.
And Christopher's really kind of the aggressor here right now. I love it. How often do you think those turn sideways this weekend?
Knowing Christopher Larson, he's a pretty aggressive player. He likes to put his opponents in a tough spot. So probably him more than other players would go for the kind of beat down, multi-dimensional approach for the Amalia deck. But this is definitely one you don't see every day. Just building your Wild Growth Walkers and attacking.
Yeah, I mean, Simon's down to 6.
Yep. So this is a great, just general Magic 101. It's a good technique if you can.
One of my favorite columns, by the way, when you were doing the Magic 101 stuff on the Wizards of the Coast site. If you never had, can find them, you should read them.
Thanks for the plug, Brian.
Yeah.
But yeah, something that every Magic player should know is sometimes a game plays out where the best defense is a good offense. So if you can make the aggressive player worry about having to block, it really kind of constricts their options for how aggressively they can attack you. So, Simon might be able to set up a win over the course of 2 turns. You think trample, protection, making his creature unblockable. But if he attacks and doesn't leave a blocker, he's dead. So now that's not an option for him. Just really a tough spot all around.
I mean, Christopher's at 25. He's just been gaining life steadily.
Yep.
What's the most damage do you think Simon could do in 1 turn with this deck?
With the Illuminator Virtuoso, the double strike, it's a huge number. It's outrageous. I mean, I think I took like 18 damage when I had a blocker in play one game in this tournament. From this position, he's a little low on resources, so I would be definitely impressed if he could put together something that would threaten Chris's life total. But under some different circumstances, if he can give double strike or have multiple creatures on the battlefield, then it can be pretty nasty. So here comes Lauren's Escape. So Simon's goal is to block and have his creature survive combat. He has 2 scries, one from the ability of the Legionnaire, one from the effect of the spell. He puts both cards on the bottom. So looking for something that will have an outsized impact on the game and help him turn things around.
And he's not killing the Wild Growth Walker here.
Right, that's big because he's going to face the same problem next turn.
Oh, that's the. So he regrows the card with his land. What is that called again?
That's the Sentinel of the Nameless City.
Yeah.
So this is actually a really cool moment because Christopher could have assembled the combo there, but he elected not to, both because he knows Simon has torched the tower and because Simon has that really unusual play where he might be able to force a draw
Sure.
Against the combo, and Chris is like, I don't want to draw, I want to just win this game.
In fact, he had the card in his hand that turn.
Yeah, exactly.
That could have forced it.
That's hard-casted Gigantha companion. That is usually not a good sign for the Boros player.
But it's a 5/5.
Yeah.
All right. Wow. So we're going to see a game 6.
So, Brian, you're the Pro Tour historian. Is this something you've ever seen before?
I have never seen a game 6 in my life.
Unreal.
I can't recall this ever happening. They're saying game 5 here, but it is actually game 6.
They probably didn't build the game 6
they
graphic.
They just didn't have a graphic for it. Yeah. All right. I'm just going to throw out some.
Oh, who had Chris winning that game?
It was kind of mixed. I'm just going to throw some packs. I don't know how far. I'm not. My arm is. I gotta go. I hit someone. How's your arm, Reed? You throw some packs.
All right.
I think Reed's got a better arm than me. We got a finals to do. We can't use all our powder right now. All right, I need one person who thinks Christopher Larson is going to win this match. All right, plaid shirt right there. Plaid shirt right there. You're on Christopher Larson. We'll do a commander deck for that. Right back here. Yep, glasses, right, the second row. You're on Simon Nielsen. Okay. So again, we'll do a Chaos Draft set as a consolation prize. Winner's getting a Fallout deck. So Simon, Christopher. Oh, all right, who's got game 7? Give me one person for a game 7. Okay, game 7 is right here, game 7. There we go. You'll get a secret lair if there's a game 7. We're not there yet. So how's this looking right now?
Competitive. Both players seem to have a pretty effective draw. Chris is trying to use Thoughtseize to make sure nothing too terrible happens to him. Meanwhile, Simon has kind of the right collection of cards because he's able to give his Swift Spear a permanent trample against a deck full of 1/1 chump blockers. So both players developing pretty nicely.
So Thoughtseize is whiffing there. But I guess it forced Simon's hand.
Correct. The reason I like Thoughtseize so much against the heroic deck is you can preemptively kind of stop them from setting up a full combo. The heroic deck really wants to get pump spell and protection spell so they can feel safe going for it. And if you never let them store up cards in their hand, it takes that ability away from them.
And it's a deck that kind of plays light on cards normally, right? Like you just have to use so many resources, get stuff to the board, pump stuff to keep it moving. You don't draw a ton of cards.
Totally.
And again, I guess, for Christopher, knowing whether or not he has to face a game 7, right? Like that's huge.
So tough spot for Chris. I mean, he just Thoughtseized. The coast was clear a moment ago, but Simon picked up a fresh card. Now he's being attacked by a trampling Monastery Swift Spear when he has only 6 life points. So you got to think, boy, what's that card? Could Simon have picked up Defiant Strike and pieced together 2 pump spells? But he did not block, and he's safe for at least one more turn.
And Simon picked up his Gigantha.
Yep.
He brought it in from Oh, I see the quarter calling graphic. Is that we can't see cards in hand here, but
No. So the best thing that Chris could probably have is Collected Company, because that would likely hit 2 creatures, gain him 4 life, and kind of just put him so far ahead on the battlefield that he'd be in good shape. Looks like he's got Cord for 2. And there's Amalia. Simon cannot kill Amalia because Chris has the
dog.
the dog.
Yeah. What is that? Trusty Hound or no?
I don't know the name of the dog. We'll call him Fido. So this is not a combo. This is just a fair and square Amalia, but this card is very powerful because Chris is going to gain 2 life. He's going to get 2 explore triggers, which means extra cards in hand, maybe counters on his creature. So in a low resource game like this, where Simon's trying to scrape over the finish line, it's a pretty effective play.
You see 2 lands coming to him. Puts 1 into play. Has the other one in hand. And again, like you said, these guys know each other. He's just playing with his cards face up here. He's like, you know what it is. I know what it is.
Right. Helpful for us too.
Right. We don't have a card in hand viewer here, but we have Christopher Larson. So Monstrous Rage is the card you're thinking about here if you're Christopher? Is that the card you're worried about?
So Monstrous Rage would be a prowess trigger, +2/+0, and a monster roll. But for anyone who played a lot of Eldraine Limited, you remember that corner case application, that corner case rule that a creature can only have 1 roll on it at a time. So the card that normally would give +3/+1 is actually only giving +2/+0 in this particular case. But this is actually the way Simon wants it to start, which is to chain together some instants and sorceries that draw him more cards, because that's just picking up more accumulation of prowess triggers and not costing him any resources out of his hand.
So that was what was that, a Defiant Strike there?
Yep, Defiant Strike. What do you think that symbolizes? Are they like raising the white flag or something? Okay.
Ah. Christopher is at 2 here.
7. Let's go.
Oh my God.
You want to give him a...
Game 7, buddy.
Congratulations. Very, very well earned. Very well earned. Wow. So this is actually like kind of a rout from Chris's perspective, right? Because he thought he was about to win the game and advance to the Pro Tour Finals. Now he's got to do it all over again.
So what can happen here? Actually, why isn't this?
Okay, so we had some more people join us in the crowd. We'll go over this again. The normal Amalia combo is Wild Growth Walker explores and gains 3 life whenever you explore. Amalia explores whenever you gain 3 life. Amalia has a reset button. When it reaches 20 power, it will destroy all other creatures, including the Wild Growth Walker. However, what Simon has done is he's made his opponent's Wild Growth Walker indestructible. So now Amalia is just going to blow past that 20 power mark, and the combo is going to continue. And if neither player can break up the combo, the rules of Magic just don't have a way to handle that, and the only thing that can happen is the game just ends. It's just a draw.
The only thing we can do is unplug it and plug it back in again.
Exactly, yeah.
Is this not going to a Game 7? Don't crack that deck just yet.
Okay.
They're just having fun at this point.
I'm actually not sure. I mean, so it could just be that they're going through the motions, and Simon gets to see Chris's
all the sideboard cards.
configuration. But maybe, I mean, Chris, he's allowed to play it out. If he has a way to break up his own loop, then the game can continue. I'm just really not sure what's going to happen.
Does he deck himself somehow?
Only if, okay, so if Chris mills out his whole library from Explorer, and then Simon has a way to break up the combo, then Chris could deck himself. But right now, he's not going to lose as a result of decking because the combo just continues, and the game's a draw.
Wow, that is crazy. So that's, I mean, we've never seen this. Yes, Groundhog Day.
Yep.
I remember. Do you remember at Pro Tour Berlin when the life total counters were not prepped to go to 4 digits, and the elf mirrors, and it was like we had that similar situation
Oh, wow.
where it was conceivable that someone could hit 1,000 life.
That's it's like Y2K or something.
All right, there's the Virtuoso.
Pretty ideal start for Simon. He uses a removal spell to take out Chris's first creature. He plays the hardest hitting creature in the Boros deck on turn 2 before Chris has anything on the battlefield.
So Simon, I mean, Christopher here just wants Fatal Push. He just wants to get this off the board.
Yeah, so there's kind of 2 ways he can approach the game, and we've seen both actually over the course of this 7-game series. But one is he can just go straight for the combo. Amalia is capable of going off on turn 3.
Okay.
And that's sometimes really strong against other creature decks. The other approach is he can have a Thoughtseize, a Fatal Push, and some mid-range creatures and kind of try to play that game. And a lot of what he's going to be doing is deciding which approach is appropriate based on the cards he's drawn, based on the context of what's happening.
So we see him conserving his life total, played a shock land tapped.
Yep.
And just played a Lunark there as one of his life gain things. And then that also just, Simon kills it and just gets on in.
The presence of a card like Sentinel of the Nameless City makes me think that Christopher does respect the mid-range possibility of, like I want to have the draw where I'm just playing Thoughtseize, Fatal Push, and then have some kind of like beefy, hard-hitting creature to take over the game afterwards. Because Sentinel of the Nameless City is not really a fast combo card. It's more of a, when things get scrappy.
Here we see Ancestral Anger on the Virtuoso. So remember, the winner of this match is going to face off against
Seth Manfield.
Yeah, someone you know very well, both as a teammate and someone you went head-to-head with in the Player of the Year race.
Totally, yeah. For as long as I've been playing, Seth's been in the conversation as one of the best players. He's in the Hall of Fame. I'd call him like one of the top 10 players of all time based on results and the respect that he has from his colleagues. So I think either player that advances is going to have it's going to be like a really fun, exciting Pro Tour Finals against Seth.
So big swing here from Simon, getting in for, is that 8 with the Virtuoso, or is that 6? I forget, is it a 1-1 or a 2-2?
It starts as a 1-1.
So 6,
yeah.
7, 8. Wow, Christopher's on 3. Okay. He explores. There's a quarter. Is that a quarter calling on top?
Yep. So he's gaining 3 life. He's getting some counters. He sees Court of Calling on top. So he's really banking on this Wild Growth Walker being able to block, which To be honest with you, sounds like a dubious prospect against the Boros Heroic player with so many cards in hand. But you know, you throw whatever stumbling blocks you can, and you hope for the best.
Yeah, this is, you know, he doesn't have enough creatures for that quarter calling to do something really big. Plays a mana confluence.
So now this is interesting because, you know, I'm betting based on Simon having so many cards in his hand that he could go for a win here. However, Chris has a man of any color untapped, so Simon's got to think: is he willing to wager his whole Pro Tour on going for it here and hoping Chris doesn't have Fatal Push? I mean, it's a tough choice.
What would you do?
Ooh, man, you don't know until you're sitting in that seat and you kind of have you're in it. You have the vibes of what's going on. But you know, Simon has to think, like, what is his read on the situation? Does he believe that Christopher has it? He has to think about what are the context clues from the previous turn. Would it make sense for him to have it? Would he have maybe cast it on a previous turn? Remember, he did play that Overgrown Tomb tapped earlier. And then you also have to think about, you know, if I do play it slow and I give this person an extra turn, what bad things can happen to me? And I'll tell you, a lot of bad things can happen to you if you give Amalia an extra turn. So tough call here.
All right, so we see a second Monastery Swift Spear. Simon says, I'm going to play this, but I see not. So that's Lorien. That's the card that can force the draw.
The card that Simon is casting right now is Homestead Curse.
Oh, okay. We had the wrong card up on the ground.
Which that can output a lot of damage, but importantly, it doesn't give trample yet.
Okay.
So if he does not give trample or protection to his Illuminator Virtuoso, then Christopher probably can just block it and survive the turn. But I guess maybe not if there's two prowess triggers on the Swift Spears. All right, presenting a lethal attack.
Vigilant Monastery Swift Spears. Blocks the biggest thing. Yeah, blocked. Does he have it? He does not! Simon Nielsen is going to the finals. 4th consecutive top 8. He's going to be playing against Seth Manfield. Simon was supposed to be up here with us. I feel really robbed. What a great job by Simon. It was like, Simon's like, guys, I'm not, well, you know, we talked about this before the event. You know, we're like, Simon's like, I'm not making a 4th top 8 in a row.
It's never happened.
It's just never happened.
Yeah.
It's implausible. I'll definitely be up on stage. That's his seat right there. You know, so, but his seat is going to be on the final stage, facing off against former Player of the Year. And did Simon win Player of the Year this past year?
He sure did. Yeah, he's
So
a reigning #1 ranked player, reigning player.
So we've got 2 Players of the Years facing off. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick little break and get some water. We're going to let the desk talk us through. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to come around though. I'm going to take the long way around. I'm going to hand out a bunch of packs and do some stuff. So hang out. Don't go anywhere yet.
Hey.
I will do.
There we have one of our finalists here at Pro Tour Murders at Karlov Manor, Seth Manfield, preparing for the final match here with Logan Nettles. And there is his opponent, Simon Nielsen, with hugs from friends ahead of the finals here coming up in just a couple of minutes. Who will be our champion? Well, we are about to find out. And if you're watching all this action at home and saying, hey, I want to try and do that. Well, you can through a regional championship qualifier that feeds into a regional championship. Take a look at the dates on your screen and whatever format you want to play, because you can choose there, make note, and then the regional championship to follow that up and earn your spot here at the next Pro Tour. Well, we've been celebrating all of the biggest moments from our last season of Magic this morning. And the last one we're going to touch on is, of course, the World Championship with the winner, Jean-Emmanuel Duprat. We're going to relive that amazing moment and find out how he's doing now at the start of the 2024 season. Pretty good, I'd say.
A land off the top's not going to be good enough. There is no doubt this time, Jean-Emmanuel Duprat is your world champion.
Redemption for JED. Second place 2 years ago against Yuta Takahashi. Back here and able to do it cleanly with a 3-0 victory against Kazuya Kasaka.
No doubt about it. 3-0, a clean win for Jean-Emmanuel Duprat.
I'm with the reigning world champion, Jean-Emmanuel Duprat, who is at the peak of his career, one would think, at the moment, as the reigning world champion. Jean-Emmanuel, your career has grown enormously over the years. What does it mean now to you to be the world champion? Has it sunk in?
Yeah, it has sunk in. It's stressful, actually. Like, I'm used to having some pressure on my shoulders, like people expecting more and more from me, and it's like a new level of pressure right now. Like, I really wish I didn't punt earlier on camera. That was something I really didn't want to happen, and it did. But still trying to remain the same person and not set any expectations for myself as I've done in the past, because that's how I win. So,
well, I want to ask you about this. Sort of how have things changed for you internally, right? How has your relationship with the game changed? How have you changed as a player since winning this enormous trophy?
I don't think it changed me that much as a player. Like, I still try to enjoy the game most of all, and yeah, most of my relationship with the game is actually like cubing with friends, so that part hasn't changed. And as for the tournaments, I'm still trying to win it all. Maybe the fire has like diminished a little bit over the years, but it's still there.
Well, this is the other thing I wanted to ask you about the future. You've done all there is to do, really. You know, now after having won the world championship, what's next for you? Like, what are your ambitions moving forward now?
I haven't won a PT, but I mean that's pretty arbitrary, like a pretty arbitrary goal. The one thing I was chasing at the beginning of my career was like the Hall of Fame dream, which is now like maybe not dead, but at least asleep. So that's one thing I would like to experience at some point if it comes back. But other than that, I just want. Earlier in an interview, like a couple of years back, I said to Rich, I just wanted to stay relevant, like. For people to just respect me as a player and know I'm still around, and that's pretty much what I aim at.
Well, it looks like it's pretty much what you've achieved as well. Jean-Emmanuel Duprat as the reigning world champion. It's great to hear that you still want to achieve more in the future. Good luck to you this weekend, and indeed, for the rest of the year, mate, I hope to see more success coming your way.
Thank you very much, Riley.
Welcome back to the news desk. Riley has been keeping track of some certain kinds of records in the building here this weekend and finding out what happens after draft on day number 1, starting with the people who don't have a great morning.
Yeah, well, I want to chat to people about some of the records that we saw players opening up with in the draft portion. We've talked extensively about how important kicking off your Pro Tour with a good draft is, and here are the players who didn't manage to do that with a 0-3 start heading into the PT. But what I want to point out is the fact that it doesn't necessarily kill your dream. Ryan Mullins here, look at this, with 11-5 as their final record. This means that we'll be seeing Ryan on the Pro Tour once again after having picked up 11 wins, but also the power of a good mental game, being able to dig in and find a way to turn a 0-3 start around into something positive. On the other side of things, however, here are the players that went 3-0. And this, more than anything else, should be a signal to just how important a successful draft is. Look at all of these players across 2 pages of standings, essentially. We've got people who are returning for different Pro Tours in the future. We've got 3 of our top 8 players there, kicking their draft off at 3-0. So, again, it's something I think some pro players who have a strong preference for Constructed sort of overlook, but the power of a 3-0 start to your Pro Tour is just monumental. Anyway, finally, the 2023 Sunday Club. So these are the players who made it to Sunday throughout the last pro season across the last year. And you can see that most of them did very well here this weekend as well. These are the players who made it through to Sunday last year, and we've got a couple who have made it through to Sunday this year as well, in the form of Jean-Emmanuel Duprat, and of course Simon Nielsen, who cannot stay away from a Pro Tour Sunday to save his life. But now, of course, the 2024 Sunday Club is open for business, Maria, and I'm very excited to see who else is going to join them.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at our bracket, everybody. We're working our way towards our final here at Pro Tour Murders at Karlov Manor. And it's a great one. Seth Manfield on Rakdos Vampires versus Simon Nielsen on Boros Heroic. Great stories all around from these players. Take a look here. 11 top finishes for Seth Manfield, 5 for Simon Nielsen. Like I said, Vampires and Boros Heroic, 2 very interesting decks that we find ourselves here in the finals today with. Seth Manfield, Hall of Famer, 2015 World Champion, won a Pro Tour in 2017, went 8-1-1 in Pioneer, and this is first top 8 since the return to paper play. And Seth Manfield wants to say, hey, I am back, baby. There's a look at his road to the top 8. Simon Nielsen, your player of the year, the first person ever to top 8 4 major events in a row, making history already here this weekend. Went 8-2 in Pioneer after saying his deck had, quote, no good matchups. Well, I have a bone to pick with you about that, buddy. All right, there's the players. Tell me about these 2 decks, Cedric.
Well, let's break it on down here for the final time this weekend. Seth Manfield, Simon Nielsen. We're going to kick things off with Rakdos Vampires, breakout deck of the tournament, looking to hoist the trophy. Now, a lot of the times I've talked about Sorin and Vein Ripper and that 1-2 punch being so very powerful in most matchups. It's just okay here, but it's certainly no slouch either. The thing that you're going to be looking towards is the removal in this matchup, because you got to contain these heroic creatures that we're going to take a look at here from Simon in just a moment. So cards like Fatal Push and Bitter Triumph are going to be very important for Seth in these games, alongside a pretty quick clock to get this game over with quickly, if at all possible. We turn our attention to Boros Heroic now in the hands of Simon Nielsen. 4 top 8s of major events in a row, and looking to walk out of here with a trophy with this Boros Heroic deck, which he said he didn't like much, but he's liked it well enough to take him to the finals. Small creatures, pump spells, thankfully, I'm pretty sure no draws this match is possible. We hope it's best of 5 and not best of 7, but we'll see either way. This deck has been very impressive in the hands of Simon because it can kill so very quickly with particular draws. And so that's always a very scary thing, where Seth really can't keep kind of a little shaky 6-carder. Hopefully things break my way, because if he does that, he could die as soon as turn 3.
All right, Cedric, prediction. Who do you think is going to take it down?
Well, 2 great players, 2 very, very interesting and fun decks. I am going to go with Seth Manfield, who feels pretty confident in the matchup. Saw him testing against Logan Nettles in the corner, huddled up with his team, and he felt the matchup is good enough for him, and he has enough interaction to be able to kind of bob and weave his way to victory. So I'm going to go with Seth.
What about you, Riley?
I'm going to make things interesting and take the opposite perspective here. I'm going to go for Simon Nielsen. He's already made history with 4 consecutive top 8s. I'd love to see him put a bow on the history that he's made, Maria, this time by winning the 4th Pro Tour or top level event that he's top 8'd. Boros Heroic is certainly not my style of deck, but Simon Nielsen, certainly my kind of player. I love the energy that he brings to Magic tournaments. I love the fact that, when he says, I'm just happy to be here, he means it.
Absolutely.
You really do. So I'd love to see him succeed. Obviously, Seth Manfield, one of the all-time greats, someone who's no stranger to success, and it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for him to win either. But I really, really hope that Nielsen gets across the line, because that positivity that he brings to the game, it is infectious, and we need more of it.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more, Riley. It's time for the finals here at Pro Tour Murders at Karlov Manor, and I think it's going to be a great one. I'm going to pass it on over to Marshall and Monty with the call.
Thank you, Maria. Welcome to the booth here. We're getting set for the finals. That's Monty DeVutti. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. It's a great pleasure to bring you coverage of Pioneer here in the finals. We're going to be playing best 3 out of 5 as we work our way down with Seth Manfield and Simon Nielsen, 2 heavy hitters facing off against each other with pretty different approaches to the format, all told.
Yeah, definitely both pseudo-aggressive strategies, but Seth definitely more towards the mid-range side with that
Almost combo.
E niente,
You're welcome.
dai, adesso...
Hello.
Anzi, sai cosa si potrebbe fare? Si potrebbe magari che tu fai il check-in. Che tu fai il
Okay.
check-in.
Hey, Reed, we're live. We're
dal
back.
vivo, però,
Holy
vabbè,
cow.
dai, All right.
Inside voice. So, do
I
we
go?
have any? We're back. We're going to get ready
No.
for the finals. Do we have any sense of how Mengu's doing in the PTQ? Because he's also someone who's supposed to join us. But you know, whoa!
Do you need any help?
Yeah, we would love your help. We
Yeah,
need to
please.
Hype the crowd up here and.
Hello, everyone. Did these guys give you enough boosters today? We should do another round, I think.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Hold
this
on
is-
to the Fallout booster.
This is a lot of collector boosters over
Yeah.
here.
So wait, hold on, Mengu. You were not qualified for Pro Tour Seattle.
No, I wasn't, but I had the last chance today. I had to 5-0, single elimination, old school, and I got there.
Yeah. All right.
What was the deck? Which deck did you play?
I used the Team Channel Fireball Rakdos Vampires. my deck for the Pro Tour wasn't so good. So I said, you know what? I asked Arne to basically play his deck that he played at PT. And yeah, it went well.
So this is the deck that we're going to see Seth playing right
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
So you both are very in favor of this of this side of the matchup.
How did you do, Reed, at the Pro Tour?
I was 10-6 overall, 6-4 with the Vampires deck.
Nice.
And in fact, I played this exact matchup 3 times to 2-1 result. I mean, it feels okay. You have the right weapons, but it's very, very scary.
Yeah.
What's the key card here from Seth Manfield's seat?
Fatal Push
Okay.
is the best, but you know, there's a lot. We can see the Sorin Vein Ripper combo, which is kind of the key element of the Vampires deck, but also just the normal Rakdos, kill your creatures, you know, Thoughtseize your key card. That stuff matters a lot too.
No draws possible in this matchup.
I haven't seen it yet.
Did you hear about the semifinals?
I heard that Simon got to Game 7.
Yeah, we just saw a 7-game semifinals, which I think is a first in Magic history.
Speaking of first in Magic history, can you kind of put the players in the finals in perspective here for us?
Yeah, I mean, these are two of the great players of the game. I mean, Seth Manfield, Hall of Famer, Player of the Year, someone who's world champion. I remember covering him at Grand Prix Daytona Beach a million years ago when he was like literally some random kid where people were like, hey, by the way, that random kid's great. And he played against Paulo Vitor Dama de Rosa in the finals of that Grand Prix and beat him. And feels like he's just been winning ever since. One of the greats. Simon, of course, had a great debut on the world stage at the World Magic Cup when he was part of the Danish team that won that tournament with the Dane Blast, right? Like the incredible top deck of the card Dune Blast. It was called the Dane Blast. And he has just rattled off 4 straight Sunday appearances. Never been done before in Magic history. No one has ever done this. Not Kai, not John, not Paolo, not Reed, not Mengu, not anybody. And is in just like super rarefied air and is now, you know, looking at maybe winning another tournament. You know, I don't even know. I guess he's, you know, would you have him in your? We haven't done a Hall of Fame in a long time, but is that something you would consider to be a Hall of Fame resume?
Well, boy, I mean, you can't brush it under the rug anymore. Like you said, 4 in a row.
Four
Most people
Pro
get
Tour
4.
top 8s in a career.
Right,
Is
that's
the Hall
right.
of Fame resume.
And he's done it in a row, which, you know, it's just in terms, it's the Hall of Fame, right? So if you've done something that no one else has done in the history, 30-year history of the Pro Tour, like that's something, right? So I think, you know, Simon is certainly one of the players that we're going to be talking about for a lot of years
And you
to come.
spoke about the results that he made, but also the person. Like Simon is an incredible person, super friendly. I teamed with him many times in the era before. He's you know, the Simon that we know now, and he's just been such a nice guy. So yeah, definitely. I mean, both of these people are great.
Paragons
people.
of the game, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And Seth, by the way, this is, I mean, Mengucci rolled his eyes at me when I suggested this was something of a comeback for Seth. But Seth has not had a top 8 at a tabletop event since we've come back to live events. So this is a big getting back on the board moment for him.
Yeah, sometimes
Not a comeback. I mean, he wasn't losing a lot, as you like
exactly.
to say.
Sometimes you see from the outside and you only look at the top 8 or the Sunday performances and everything. But like doing consistently as good as Seth does for so many years is just outstanding,
If Seth wins, he'll have won 4 Premier Pro Tour or Pro Tour equivalent events, which I'm not sure how many other people have done that. Only one comes to mind.
Yeah. It is very rare air. You're mentioned, right after Kai Buda at that point, right? Mm-hmm. Like the German juggernaut. So, this is a chance to really climb up that leaderboard, which not that many people get to climb up, right? There's only been 100-odd winners of a Pro Tour ever.
Sure, yeah.
And he could win 4 of them.
What Pro Tour has he won? I remember Ixalan very well.
So Seth won Pro Tour Ixalan with Sultai Energy.
Yes.
He won the World Championships with Abzan Midrange.
Right.
And then he won one of the arena events that was a replacement for the Pro Tour during the play from home era.
You can see that Mengu's like, no, that doesn't count.
No, totally. No.
He's like, digital, no.
Mengu won one of those too.
No, but it was in paper. It was in person. But it's okay. It's okay. We can count that. We can count that. All right, we see Sorin, but we don't see Vein Ripper. Usually those 2 cards come together.
So how does that work, guys? What that's like the big combo here in this deck. What is going on with Sorin and Vein Ripper?
Okay, so it's super cool, first of all, because I think Vein Ripper, it was not obvious how strong it was going to be. Normally when a card is printed, a 6-mana creature is not, you're not thinking of it as breaking into Pioneer and Modern and everything like that. But it's not 6 mana, because you can put it into play for free with Sorin's -3 ability. And Vein Ripper is massive. It's very hard to kill because of the ward ability. And, in the course of 1 or 2 turns, the life loss adds up so much that it basically either ends the game or puts it completely out of reach. Did you have some good experiences with Vein Ripper today?
Yeah, well, when you do the Splinter Twin combo, it's amazing for sure. But it's really nice that, these 2 cards aren't just like, Emrakul. Like, it isn't like a show and tell Emrakul situation where if you draw Emrakul without show and tell, it's unplayable and vice versa. Like, these cards have text. Like, we see here Seth sacrificing Bloodtide Harvester to Sorin's +1 ability to do something. Or it's very easy to Arcast the Vein Ripper. Like, you have Fables, or you can even do like turn 5 sometimes. So, like, the reason why this deck is good and better than Rakdos Midrange for sure is that you have the combo element paired up with the just mid-range plan that the other deck already has. So I think the deck is super cool, and it's huge discover by your team, Reed. So yeah, congratulations for sure. And again, part of my PTQ win is because of you, because I was completely lost in Pioneer. I had no idea what to play. And, I like Rakdos, but I tested the deck a lot, and I was not winning much with it. So.
We're happy you could share in it, and I hope lots of other people watching will, play vampires in their respective events and have some fun.
Actually, how does that give us a little bit of inside baseball here in terms of, like, what's it like in the room when someone's like, guys, I think we should play Vein Ripper?
Okay, well, it started.
Yeah,
it started with someone posed the question of, hey, we really like Cavern of Souls, so our creatures are uncountable. What's the best Cavern of Souls deck? And vampires came roughly like 14th on the list of things to try. But we did try it. It was Paul Rietzel, Hall of Famer, one of the great deck builders, who was the driving force.
Someone who doesn't always get credit, by the way, for being one of the great deck builders. He's known as a limited player and as like an aggro player, but has had his hand in a lot of great decks over the years.
Yeah, so he tried out mono black vampires, and it looked a lot different at first. Like he was excited about Bloodletter of Aklazots, which is a 4-mana creature. We had Champion of Dusk. But we played and we're like, wow, Vein Ripper. Every time it hits the battlefield, this card is just so massively overperforming expectations. It's good in almost every matchup. Think about a control deck. They want to do Supreme Verdict. Take 8, take 8, and then I'll kill you with my Mutavaults. Like that comes up all the time. So anyway, just the combination of having the really strong supporting cast of the Rakdos cards, plus Sorin and the new Vein Ripper made it all worthwhile.
Was it a guys, am I crazy moment, or was it just obvious from the moment someone put it in the deck that it was just going to be a meta game changer?
Oh, it was like, hey, humor me while I try out vampires, and then I'll switch to Phoenix or blue. Is it Phoenix or blue white
I'll switch
control?
to a real deck.
Yeah, when it doesn't work out, but it worked out.
Yeah, so I saw the win rates of vampires from yesterday. Of course, we've seen Frank Karsten posted the win rates of the Pro Tour like live, basically, which is we definitely owe a lot to Frank for these stats. And yeah, the win rates of vampires were great. Struggling a little bit against Phoenix, but today I was able to beat it. How was the matchup against Phoenix, in your opinion?
So I saw the stat that our Vampires deck played against Phoenix 27 times in the Pro Tour to a result of 13 and 14.
Okay,
so very, very close to 50-50. But it was the sideboard plan was good with Leyline of the Void. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to beat one Phoenix today. I got to beat two Amalia, which that matchup felt hard though. It's not easy. And then Boris Convoke in the final, which is another tough one. But
all right, guys, what does this look like here? What are we?
Well, Seth has activated Sorin a lot. You've seen in his graveyard a bunch of vampires. Mutavolt, of course, is a vampire. And he uses that to kill a creature and gain 3 life. But of course, Simon has God's Willing to protect it, or some other protection. So I don't know. The board looks pretty even. Life total favors Seth, but we know that life total is not too relevant in a game of Magic. It's relevant, but not too much. So
this is a very scrappy game. I would say a lot has gone well for Seth. He was able to keep Simon's board clean for a while. He's had Sorin on the battlefield for a lot. His struggle is that he doesn't actually have a creature which he needs to take full advantage of both the Sorin and the Smuggler's Copter. So he's spending a lot of time and mana, activating Mutavaults to crew, sacrificing Mutavault to Sorin's ability. So he's trying to make it work. But this would be much easier for him if he just had a creature, maybe even a Vein Ripper would be nice, but he's making do.
yeah, I mean, Seth has 2 removal spell in hand. Simon has 2 creature in play and nothing in hand. So I would say the advantage bar is towards Seth, but yeah, the advantage bar is so important. Like when my family was watching me, of course, no idea what was going on. That's all they could follow was the advantage bar, because I told them that life total doesn't matter too much. Although here it seems to do. Yeah, Sorin definitely gives you a ton of life.
It's unusual to keep a Planeswalker around this long and then not have the game be over.
Because the thing is that Sorin just doesn't do too much. Like, it doesn't run away with the game like, let's say, Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. So, Seth now is probably sacrificing the last vampire to Sorin, and then Sorin will just literally do nothing. Like, because, maybe he can give Death Touch and Lifelink to the Copter, but still not, again, as running away with the game like Teferi or the Wandering Emperor.
So who are you guys? Look, I'm going to ask you to give me a pick. And I know this is difficult, especially for Reed to do here. He's got the gear on. You've also got the gear on here. Who are you rooting for? Who do you think's going to win? How about this?
That's great first.
Who do you think's going to win this match?
I believe Seth Manfield is going to win.
Yeah, I have to do a little bit of a rivalry, so I'll choose Simon Nielsen.
All right, what about the audience? Who here is on Team Simon for this? Wow. Okay. But I have a feeling. I mean, that seemed a little low energy.
Yeah.
Here. So what is the consensus in the room for Seth Manfield?
I'd say Seth being from
I think
the
that's slightly Reed Duke factor here.
Yeah, I'd say that Seth being from the United States is an advantage. Maybe next PT in Copenhagen, Simon will have the advantage. All right, so Seth decided not to sacrifice the Mutavault to the Sorin, just using it to crew and keep on gaining life. because Sorin only puts a kind of strange card, but only puts the +1/+1 counter on a vampire. If he targeted the Smuggler's Copter, just gives it lifelink and death edge. So you see here no dice in play for Seth.
There's also a cool dynamic at play, which is Sorin's second ability deals 3 damage to a creature and gains Seth 3 life. However, the Fabled Hoplite has an ability that when its heroic triggers, all damage is prevented to it for that turn. So I noticed that Simon is keeping a Spike Field Hazard in his hand, and at first I was like, well, what is he doing with that Spike Field Hazard? That's not very helpful, but it is a way that he could save his Hoplite from a Sorin activation, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and he has the +1/+1 flashback card, which lets him connive. And Seth you can notice how Seth isn't using your removal in response. I believe Seth still has like Fatal Push and Bitter Triumph. No, just Bitter Triumph in end. What's the other card?
Did he also Spike Field Hazard his own guy?
He connived.
Oh, he connived. Okay.
No, he used the Sorcerer in the graveyard, in the Exile Zone now. So it's very funny to see Simon that uses the Exile Zone under his deck. That's a very typical Simon Nielsen thing. Basic lands from Time Spiral and doing the Exile under the deck. Because I've already covered Simon in the same stage here. It was PT Barcelona, where he made the top 4. And what did he do? Did he lose to Kalk, I think? Yeah. I think Simon lost to Kalk. And so
yes. Yeah, I was watching that at home.
Yeah. Now, we were watching it here at the stage at the MagicCon Barcelona.
Nice.
Yeah.
That must have been exciting for you to be on stage for Calcano.
I was, yeah, so much rooting for Kalk. So close. He got so close to winning the Pro Tour. Yeah, how many does Seth play Shieldred? Because that would be so good in the spot, right?
He does.
'Cause
Seth's deck is actually a handful of cards different than what the rest of us showed up with. This is typical Seth. He definitely marches to the beat of his own drum. But I do believe that he has Shieldred in his main deck, which is unique and different from the rest of us.
Yeah, in fact, I copied the list of Arne, who didn't have Shieldred, but then I saw that Seth had Shieldred. At the end of the day, I think he has one less Dusk Legion Zealoth. Like he plays 2 Dusk Legion, and you play 3.
I see Vein Ripper graphic here.
Whoa, it arrived. And Sorin definitely has enough loyalty to put Daze into play, because it's been like +1ing the whole time.
This is a cool thing about the Vampires deck, because when it's described to you, you're like, okay, Sorin, Vein Ripper on turn 3, like how often is that really going to happen? And it's true that you have to get lucky for that, but really in practice, the game goes long, you're looting with your Smuggler's Copter, you have Fable of the Mirror Breaker Chapter 2.
You're gaining life and giving lifelink to things, right? Like
totally.
You're extending the game.
Yeah, so this is a totally common type of game where Seth finds Vein Ripper on turn 9 and puts it on the battlefield, but that's still a totally functional way to win the game.
Not sure he found it though. He used Sorin to kill.
Yeah, Seth did not use the Vein Reaper to put into play Vein Reaper, and instead he decided to kill a Virtuoso.
Were you sacrificing a Mutavault there?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say that is very ahead at this point. Yeah, Simon just returns Giganta. It's not lethal, but, very, very... Oh, actually, it is lethal. Because he can go put into play Vein Reaper, Crew, Copter, attack, and then Bitter Triumph your creature. It dies. Vein Reaper triggers. That's 5 damage right there. Of course, you don't have to go for it. Like, you can take it slower and just keep up removal.
Oh, here we can see cards in hand.
Oh, another super sweet card is the Preacher of the Schism. I've definitely had fun.
I don't even know what that does.
So it has a lot of words, and I have to say I also had to read it a lot while playing it. It has Death Fetch. That's something important.
Okay, that's one of the words.
Yeah, that's one of the words. And then when you attack the player with more life than you, so if your opponent is on 20 or 19, you make a 1/1.
Oh, yeah, I know this card.
But if you're attacking the player with less life, then you're drawing a card. Or maybe the opposite. I don't know.
No, you say you have it right.
Okay.
And if you're equal life totals, you get
Yeah, and
both.
if you equal life total, you get both. And it's super relevant because then you sacrifice the token with Soaring. Yes.
Okay, there goes. One game to Rakdos Vampires.
Ooh, look at that. That's the Pro Tour Lounge. That's nice that they're showing it. You see Kalk.
See Jim Davis.
You see Nassif. Yeah.
So you were talking before, Mangu, about like that you recognize Simon's board. Like how many players do you think have an identifiable board state?
So I can tell you that my board state I've learned from Reed. Like the way Reed manages his board, it's so clean and just like everything is in line, creature and everything. So I would say that my style is Reed style. Very.
So if I showed you a Reed board without a graphic, you would know, you'd be pretty sure it was Reed?
Yeah,
I don't have any graphics
I would say
prepared.
I've watched enough Reed on coverage to say that. Yeah.
Arne Huschenbeth, when he joined our team, he said a cool thing to me. He said, you know, I could have recognized you just by your shuffle. Like I've watched so many hours of, you know,
like
your hand shuffling the cards like on coverage.
Yeah, with like
and
Reed
he
biceps.
said that the same thing about a lot of the players on the team.
Like showing. It is.
Well, it's like batting stances in base, you know, like
Sure.
when I was a kid
Actually,
growing up.
you can recognize Seth shuffling too. The riffle shuffle like this. That's
Where it
another-
always looks like the cards are going to go everywhere.
No, I
right?
mean, he just kills his cards. Like I remember in team drafts and everything, he pulls out the rares and it's just like this. Yeah, the note to self is not to lend any cards to Seth. Yeah, no.
But, you know, people would emulate baseball players. You know, you emulate their batting stance when you're, you know, starting to play it. And I wonder if players, I guess they do, emulate their favorite Magic pros in terms of shuffles and how they hold cards and how they present their board.
But he's always nice to the opponent decks, you can see.
So before earlier, we were watching on a slight delay, and we were able to cut out the sideboarding and the shuffling stuff before you got here. But now we're pretty much caught up and we're live.
I heard.
So I think we should probably give away some boosters.
Ooh, yes, I love to do this. Okay, this is all we have left, right?
Yes, this is what we got left.
The
we
Fallout
threw a lot of
pack.
stuff around. We
The
can do
Fallout
whatever.
packs later.
Okay, yeah, we got a Fallout deck and a Fallout booster that we're going to save for the last game.
Okay, we have 3 collector booster of Dominaria Master. This one, yeah, let's give these 2. And 1 March of, all of them. It's draft. It's draft boosters. Come on. All right, I'll go around. I like to run around the room, do some activity.
Hey!
Hey, thanks everybody for being here. It's really awesome to see such a great turnout to like watch the finals of the Pro Tour.
Yeah, I love this.
Yeah,
this
this
is so
is cool.
exciting for me. I love being up here with you guys too. It's really great to hear your sort of like in the trenches perspective from the tournament, and I love that we get to hear about the origins of this Rakdos deck.
Yeah, for sure.
We get a look at the opening hands.
Okay, right on time.
So we
Yeah,
have the
both keep 7.
second of the 2 before sideboard games. This is going to be maybe Simon's best advantage because he gets to go first before Seth gets to bring in his Path of Peril, his extra Liliana, you know, some removal spells. So, you know, big game for Simon, especially with Seth taking a mulligan.
Yeah, Seth took a mulligan of 4 lands, 3 spells.
Oh, really?
But one of the spells was Vein Reaper. So, you know, sometimes in Magic,
It's already a mulligan.
you open
to some
lands and
extent.
spells with a mid-range deck and you have to keep. But this is a matchup where your starting hand matters a lot. Like, for example, in my final of the PTQ, I was playing against Boris Convoke. And game 2, I kept a similar hand of Push, Blood-Tide, Fable, 4 lands on the draw, game 2. And I kept, but, you know, I didn't draw the sideboard, and I just got run over by the aggro deck. So sometimes with this mid-range deck, it's important to mulligan to, you know, what you need, because it's not about card advantage, it's about like card quality. So yeah, the London mulligan definitely changed how mid-range decks mulligan too. I don't follow the line very often, but I recognize that I should.
For this game on the draw, Seth really wants to basically have a card he can cast on turn 1, otherwise he risks falling behind. And he has some. He has got Thoughtseize and Fatal Push. Maybe it's a 1-lander from what we see on the graphic. So let's
only 5 cards.
Let's see what Seth decides.
Ooh, Dusk Legion Zealoth, Pioneer staple.
It is, in fact, a 1-lander. If I know Seth, he'll be keeping this hand and just kind of gambling that something comes off the top to help him.
Yeah, I mean, you have 3 interactions, so even if you brick, you still have, like, play into play. I wonder if he goes for push or for Thoughtseize. Because sometimes, like, taking the second creature could be super huge.
He drew second push, which I think does change it. I was going to be in favor of Thoughtseize because you don't want to push and then have Simon play an even scarier 2-drop
Yeah,
creature.
but I think the Thoughtseize was great, because now you take the Virtuoso, and then you have push for... I guess, yeah,
Yep.
you still have to push.
So Simon has no second, well, after Seth takes the Virtuoso, which is our prediction, Simon will have no second creature and no protection spell.
Oh, wow.
So Seth has a high chance of being able to just kill all of Simon's, kill Simon's first rush of creatures and slow the game down to a point where he can draw out of his awkward situation.
Yeah, I would say that Simon has 2 draw steps, because the Defiant Strike gives you a draw step. So he can easily draw into a God's Willing, or I don't know if he has any other protection or another 1-drop. So I would say that Seth drawing... oh, no, he hasn't drawn a second land yet. So the game can take a while before Seth manages to draw the second land, and then meanwhile, Simon can draw into the... Ooh, he drew
Oh, there's
Sphere.
that second creature you were
Yes,
talking about, Reed.
exactly.
Yep, big moment for Simon. Now, especially if Seth misses his land drop, you know, Seth still gets to play. He has more 1-mana cards in his hand, but every turn that passes, he's going to be taking like a pretty massive hit from these creatures. So getting dicey, and a big draw step for Seth coming up.
Yeah. Cycles his Defiant Strike and just gets in.
Honestly, Swift Spear was definitely among the best draws that Simon could have had. So, Reed, you would have played Fatal Push here, right? If you played Push, I think it would have been much better. Because then, what does Simon do? Play Virtuoso? Like, I feel like, yeah, you would have saved a couple of life here and there, so... But, yeah, Magic is such a guessing game, right? You have to guess your opponent hand, guess the top of the deck.
Yeah, it's really tough. I was certainly would have Thoughtseized, and then drawing the second Fatal Push makes it a lot closer. And I'm not sure what I would have done, so I'll happily default to what Seth's play was. But now, you know, with missing the second land drop, he's in a spot where he's playing catch up.
You talked a little bit about Seth sort of going his own way sometimes. What is it?
More than sometimes.
How is he able to succeed doing that? Does he succeed because of that, despite that? Like, it's something that people have always talked about, that Seth just plays the game a little differently. And there have been players like that throughout the game's history, and I always find that fascinating, right? Because there's, you know, people always just talk about the optimal play and the optimal line, but how does Seth succeed, you know, going against the grain sometimes?
It's a really hard question, Brian. The best way I can describe it is that Seth just has such a vision for Magic that, you know, he knows what he needs to win a game, and if you give him those tools, he'll find a way. So Seth likes to build his decks so that he'll find himself in scrappy games where he has access to those tools. Like, you know, if people who follow a lot of chess, sometimes certain players are described like that in chess, where they, you know, they could care less about their openings. They more want to get into an unfamiliar, complicated board state and figure it out from there. I think Seth is more that style of player.
That's fascinating. All right, well, he is up against it here. And Simon, who really only had one creature when we looked at his hand with the Thoughtseize, has drawn his third now.
Here, Simon targets the weaker of his two creatures with Ancestral Anger, which turns out to be a really ingenious play because Seth did indeed have Fatal Push.
Yeah, you can see how Simon drew another creature right off the top, which, ooh, that's going to be a lot of damage there. How much is that? 6.
6.
And Seth doesn't have another push. He used both of them.
Yeah, he just pushed
Or
his
not.
turn and then used the other push unless the hand viewer isn't caught up yet.
Yeah, I don't know, because there's...
Wow.
I'm not sure, because it says that Seth has another pushing in.
Well, we're going to find out because I'll tell you one thing. It's not going to be easy to block that Legionnaire. It's a 4 toughness creature.
All right,
with
he does.
trample,
Wow.
Okay.
But
3
Fatal
push.
Push is the right answer.
Okay, so...
Third Fatal Push.
With Seth's Super Mana Screw, they can't play many spells, but if Simon just has pumps... Ooh, is that Giganta? It is.
Oh.
Okay, so yeah, Simon doesn't have a creature, which was the spot you wanted to be in, so that now Seth can find some time to draw the second land.
He casts Duress. What are you going to take here? I mean, you're going to take the flashback card, or I don't know what that middle card is.
It's Reckless Rage, which
Okay.
is a pretty strong card. It's a way to both trigger Heroic and kill off one of Seth's creatures. Simon cannot cast Reckless Rage unless he has a creature of his own on the battlefield. So it's a pretty interesting call for Seth.
So this is, I believe you used the adjective scrappy before.
Oh yeah.
What's that card? Another copy? Yeah.
Was that Lorian's Grace or
Homestead Courage.
Homestead? There's 2 Homestead Courages at this point.
I believe so.
One in hand, one in the graveyard.
Okay.
Simon draws and passes.
Oh, a land.
Ooh.
You get to play some Magic now.
Simon draws and passes exactly mean that he has a pump spell in hand. Because, if it was a creature, we would have played it. If it was a plant, we would have played it because of Giganta. So you're not bluffing anything there.
Good point.
It's all face up. Oh. Is that a creature? Yes, it's the 10th District Legionnaire, which will actually cause the Bloodtide Harvester to chump block.
Yeah, that could be why Seth took Reckless Rage in anticipation of having to chump block a creature.
I guess also because of flashback, right? Just discarding a card with flashback doesn't seem
Isn't
like
great.
Doesn't seem like a great play.
So Simon could Reckless Rage here.
Oh, he has another one?
I think he picked one
Oh,
up
wow, okay.
the previous turn. This is appealing for a couple of reasons. He doesn't kill Seth, but he puts him to 1, which turns off a few cards in Seth's deck. Thoughtseize, Dusk Legion Zealot, Sulphurous Springs. Additionally, it seems pretty likely from Simon's perspective that Seth could have another copy of Bloodtithe Harvester, which means making a second blood and maybe threatening eventually to sacrifice and kill a larger 10th District Legionnaire.
All right.
I don't know. I feel like playing the Homestead Courage was slightly better because you're basically using it as a removal spell, and the Reckless Rage is always in the end to be used as a removal spell. Like, for example, if Seth now is a creature, he doesn't die, whereas if he had played the Homestead Courage, Seth,
I see what you mean. So the Homestead Courage could have
Simon wins.
taken the creature off the battlefield anyway.
All right, so 2 games in the books. It means now the players get to go to their sideboards.
Oh, okay, that's true because it's best of 5, 2 games free board.
So what happens in this matchup in sideboard?
So my sideboard was Path of Peril, Rending Volley. I don't know what was Seth's sideboard, but I had Sweepers, some extra removal spell, like a bit of Triumph for Rending Volley. So I would say he gets better for sure for Seth. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it will be just a few changes here and there, not completely revolutionizing the decks. On the Seth side, let's keep an eye out for Path of Peril. and the one of...
We lost our graphics out here. I don't know what's going on, but
Well, in the
hopefully
meantime,
yeah, let's talk about this. Keep talking about this.
one Liliana of the Veil, which is really strong because it can kill a creature through a protection spell like God's Willing or Lauren's Escape. And then from Simon's side, his main weapon is he can go a little bit bigger with card advantage spells like Showdown of the Scalds. Now, that's a really obvious plan for Heroic against traditional Rakdos midrange. I think it's a little bit more dicey against vampires because if Seth has that quick Vein Ripper draw, you know, he can really threaten Simon's life total. We talked about that when we saw the Christopher Larson Seth Manfield match. But I do think Simon will probably turn to at least some number of his Showdown of the Scalds.
Andrea, what do you think the big takeaways here from Pioneer have been this weekend?
Okay, so we came in knowing that Phoenix would have been the most popular deck, and Phoenix had a fantastic win rate. Definitely, and kind of what happened in Barcelona was the same when Rakdos Evoke was the most popular deck and the one with the best win rate, and this happened as well to Phoenix. So, you know, we can definitely say that Phoenix was the winner, despite we haven't seen Phoenix. Like we saw Jean-Emmanuel and remember the name, but
Adam.
Ming Yan Chang.
Oh yeah, we had three.
He was
Phoenix.
Lotus Fields.
Oh, he was Lotus. I'm sorry,
I
you're
think
right.
Adam was a
Yeah.
So we definitely saw some. Phoenix
Adam Edelson was the other.
We definitely saw some Phoenix in the top 8, but I think overall, like top tables was just flooded with Phoenix. Like Javier Dominguez finished 9th with the same score as the top 8 players with Phoenix. And like if you go through the top 8s, it's like, you know, another teammate of mine had a draw in the last round for the top 8. Also played Phoenix. So I would say that the takeaway to me was that Phoenix had just kind of like the deck to beat once again, whereas maybe Rakdos and Control didn't do too well, I would say. So that is to me the takeaway after the beat. And even Lotus Field didn't do well. That's another deck that was kind of surprising, to be honest.
I think it's a great point that even though Phoenix didn't make the top 4, we should still consider it one of the more successful decks of the tournament because of its high win rate. And if you go beyond, you know, top 4, 2 in the top 8, tons more in the top 16, top 32, popular choice among the elite players in the tournament. So expect a lot of big things from Phoenix, you know, up until a point in the future where maybe something gets banned.
Yeah, I got to see you play against Nathan Stoyer in the last round. Yeah, Nathan was playing Phoenix. There's so many people watching you. This is one of the last match of the round, and you ended up winning, which is cool.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
All right, the players are sideboarding. Do we have a technology that tells us how they sideboarded?
Well, you know, we might be getting a sideboarding report, and if so, we can bring that volume up.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they're talking about that or not.
That is always one of the most interesting thing from a Magic commentating point of view. It's just how the sideboarding thing goes, and definitely a very one of the hardest part of Magic.
As someone who's in Seth's pit crew, so to speak, I can tell you what the discussions were like.
Sure.
And we were not unanimous. Some people. So the one thing that I advocated for is you want a lot of cheap cards. So I like Duress. I like all the removal spells. I think those are kind of slam dunks for the matchup. But then that's not enough. You can't just kill the first few creatures and declare victory. You have to actually win the game. So the tricky thing is cards like Fable of the Mirror Breaker, which can be slow and clunky under the wrong circumstances without the right, without the supporting cards, but you kind of need them. You want to go Fatal Push, Fable, so that you have something to get ahead. And then another thing that we weren't unanimous on was the Sorin Vein Ripper combo, because very powerful when you get it, but you don't want to have Vein Ripper stuck in your hand. And sometimes, again, without the right supporting cast, the Boros Heroic deck can actually outclass Vein Ripper or give their creature protection from black, and it's not always a guaranteed win.
Oh wow, so you cut some Vein Ripper.
I personally, I advocated -1 Vein Ripper just to have a little more balance in the deck, but still have access to the combo. But we discussed a wide range of possible sideboard configurations.
Interesting.
What kind of options do you have as a Boros player? Like what were you seeing? You said you played this match a few times. What were you seeing people bringing in against you post board?
Well, I actually just saw with this camera angle and Simon shuffling that he did bring in at least one copy of Showdown of the Scalds. So that will be the main transformation from his Game 1 deck. But to be honest with you, I think Simon's best chance of winning is just to kind of overwhelm Seth with lots of cheap cards. Seth's going to be trying his best to have access to Fatal Push and maybe mulligan aggressively to find it. But that doesn't mean he has it every game, and certainly he's not going to have multiples every game. So if Simon just gets to deploy these 1-mana creatures, have the Gods Willing at the right time, or the Loren's Escape, that's still a great way for him to steal a game.
I think one of the things we were doing before you got here, Mangu, is we were letting people pick who they thought would win. And if they pick one, we need one person for each player. And so if we can find one person who's going to pick Seth and one person who's going to win, who's going to pick Simon, the winner will get, if they pick the winner correctly, they'll get a Fallout deck.
Okay.
And then if they, the consolation prize will be a draft, like a Chaos draft set.
Okay.
So do you want to find us?
I have to choose.
You have to choose 2 people. You need to find one person for each player.
Okay. Since there's a light, I can see very much. I don't see well. Is anyone standing out over there? all right. This guy. This guy.
Commitment to the commitment to it.
He committed. Who do you choose? You're going for Seth, Team Seth. All right. Anyone from Europe for Simon over there?
Are you looking for a European?
I mean, one American and one European. I think makes sense. We got. Who do we got there?
Oh.
No. He's the guy in my room. So. Woo! Yes. All right. You have to root for Simon Nielsen, okay? All right. Let's go.
And then we're gonna have to figure out what to do with these secret layers at some point. But
we open them.
Okay.
And then we keep the cards.
I'm in. Fantastic solution.
Okay.
I might also have some mystery boosters in the back, but.
Seth kept his hand. No, wait. How many lands does Seth have?
I'm seeing 6 cards displayed.
Oh, one is Fable. Okay. I thought it was only lands, but all right. So Seth kept 4 lands, 2 spells. Actually, now that I think about it, I didn't have Takenuma in my deck. Did you?
I did. That was one of the small discrepancies.
Oh, interesting. What about Simon? He has...
Simon's hand looks good to me. Now he's on the draw. Yeah, no, Simon's hand is perfect.
Yeah.
There's no thought to mulliganing that one.
Very good hand.
All right.
Wait, I also didn't have Stokenzen. My mana base is very different than the one Seth has.
Seth is the only one who played Sokenzan.
Okay.
And that's the one that makes 2/1/1.
2 hasty spirits.
Exactly.
All right, that's dead.
I mean, is there any cost to playing it? It seems kind of free.
Well, I didn't play any mountains or any lands that didn't produce black mana in my deck, but Seth decided he could.
Because you have 4 mutables and 3 Coven of Souls.
Okay.
So the mana base actually isn't the best. Like, you don't have that many sources to cast a Fable of the Mirror Breaker. It's not like Rectus mid-range where you have all these like spare lands to play Takenuma, Sokenzen, etc. So. Okay, so Seth didn't play Fatal Push. Very interesting.
Yeah, so 2 things could be going on there. He might just think, well, the 2 mana creatures are scarier than Favored Hoplite, so I want to save it for Illuminator Virtuoso or whatever it might be. Another thing is Seth could be thinking, well, I mulliganed So I need something to go right here and maybe set myself up to 2-for-1 Simon if Simon goes for a pump spell and Seth can respond with Fatal Push. It's very tough to play against this heroic deck, and I would say, generally speaking, if you're very comfortable with your position, you can play it safe and kill the creature right away so that you don't get your removal spell countered by Lauren's Escape or God's Willing. But sometimes, you don't want to play it safe and you want to take your chance to get something a little bit better with your removal spell.
The red zone is full over there with 2 creatures from Simon. Seth is holding that Fatal Push. I'm assuming this is the time to play, or is he hoping to top deck Path of Peril?
I think this is a good time to play Fatal Push, in part because Seth wants to tap out on his next turn for Fable of the Mirror Breaker.
Yeah, so there's not that many draws that can make Seth change the decision. Ooh, a Vein Ripper we see.
So Seth is going to lean heavily on the Chapter 2 of Fable to try to find some more removal spells, some more
Get 2
defensive
cards
measures.
deeper into his deck.
Exactly.
Not expecting to make any treasures anytime soon.
That's something that can happen, especially if you don't find Sorin. You can work your way towards 6 mana for Vein Ripper by making treasures with the Goblin Shaman. I'm not sure if Simon would have kept in a lot of removal spells in his deck after sideboarding.
I feel like with Simon's hand of 2 Showdown of the Skulls, the Seth's way to win the game is by playing that Vein Ripper. So I don't even know if he's supposed to discard it there next turn. Obviously, a lot will happen. Will change based on what he draws, but I feel like Simon's hand is very well equipped for the long game here.
Good point.
As well as just making how big is that, 4/5?
Yeah, 4/5 Vigilant top light right
Actually,
now.
a 5/5 with Ancestral Anger too.
And Ancestral Anger does give trample, so no opportunity for Seth to block and preserve his life total.
How often in a situation will you, assuming there was no trample there, just chump block to absorb a chunk of damage?
It's a great question. One thing to think about is I'm more likely to chump block if I think I might not have that option again on a future turn. And with the heroic deck being so full of cards that give trample and cards that give protection, you never know. If you let yourself go down to 8 life, that might have been your last chance to successfully block. So you have to be really thoughtful about it.
Yeah, so Seth keeps the Vein Ripper in hand. And let's see what he draws. Let's see if there's a Sorin over there.
Liliana would be nice.
It's a 2 and a black card, but it's not Sorin.
That's the card, the Preacher, the Schism we were talking about, right? 2/4, is it?
It is, and it has
Death Touch, yeah.
Which is nice against Heroic, but it actually does not match up that well against Favored Hoplite in particular, because Favored Hoplite has that line of text about preventing damage when the Heroic triggers.
Yeah. I guess Seth can take a turn off here, and next turn chump attack into Vein Ripper for 6 mana with the treasure from the Goblin. So he can go Blood Crypt tap, Preacher go, and then maybe chump block, or yeah, I would say it's tough.
But you basically think Seth needs to hard cast a Vein Ripper right now.
And I don't even know if that's going to be enough because it's just the 6/5, The uplight is already at 4/5, and it'll grow even more.
So funny, all of these cards, and then a Favored Hoplite. A Favored Hoplite just dictating the tempo of a game. This is not a card was a constructed all-star.
No, bulk bin uncommon right there.
Yeah. And like we said, even a strategy that was not on the top of everyone's radar coming into this tournament either,
Yeah, I would say that the heroic deck doesn't have any fantastic matchup. You can say it has a fantastic matchup against Lotus Field, but outside of that, it kind of like 50-50 against Phoenix, Rakdos, Blue-White, and even against Vampires, I think.
Mengu, is there a heroic deck in Pauper?
They're...
Or a Prowess, something like that?
Yeah, no, so they actually banned Monastery Swiftspear.
Right.
It used to be,
That
you
was
know,
big news.
much better a few months ago, but you have the mono white heroic, but you know, it's not one of the best choices. But there is mono white. You have the Lagonda Trailblazer, which is in the same set of this, the 0/4, which was the common version. This is, of course, in draft. This card was All-Star in Theros draft. What card did this set pick up lately? Did it get anything with the new set?
Fugitive Codebreaker.
Okay.
Which that one was
upgraded.
It beat me pretty badly in one game.
Oh, wow.
It was just 1 mana to flip it up, draw 3 cards.
That's true.
Trigger Prowess a few times.
Yeah.
I love that whole class of cards that whenever they say, like, discard your hand, draw 3 cards, and you're just like, yes. I just get to play, like, Reckless Abandon to empty my hand, and then...
Totally. It's so fun when your incentive is just to be really careless and play all your spells at the first opportunity. You got paid off for it.
So again, we're really seeing, like, I mean, talk for a minute. You guys have both been here on this stage. Talk about what the decision process is like when, like, over every single turn when you're playing for these stakes and for this kind of legacy of winning a Pro Tour.
I think a very important thing is to try to not feel too many emotions in those moments. Like, it's to not try to think about what happens if I win. It's just, you have to play the game as if you're playing, you know, just like trying to take everything out and just try to play well, focus, without thinking about what happens if I win or what happens if I lose.
But it has to intrude. Like, you can't not be aware of it. Are you able to block it out when you're on at this spot in a tournament?
You really have to. One of the best, pieces of advice I received in my Magic career was never picture yourself at the end of the tournament. The moment you start picturing yourself with the trophy and saying, oh man, how am I going to feel? How am I going to spend my prize money? That's when you lose your focus and things can go really, really downhill.
Yeah, and these players have been in the spot, so they know, how to do it, and they'll try to be as calm as possible. I would say that Seth doesn't hide his, he's very emotional at the table, even at the, whereas Simon is, always keeps on being super friendly and everything. By the way, Seth drew a Sorin over there.
Oh.
So that's a big deal.
So next turn, Seth has the play, which is copying Vein Ripper with Reflection of Kiki-Jiki, but he can't get ahead of himself because that thing has Summoning Sickness this turn. So Seth he's digging in, he's thinking, okay, how do I just make sure that I can survive and that my key creatures can survive one more turn?
So why is Vein Ripper so good? Like you said, it's, on some level it is just a 6/5, but what is the, how is it changing the game here?
Well, I'll tell you a story.
Awesome.
Starts with you tap your Reflection of Kiki-Jiki, you copy Vein Ripper. Then you attack for 12 damage in the air. Then you use your Sorin, you sacrifice a vampire, you deal 3 damage to your opponent, and you trigger Vein Ripper, the 2 Vein Rippers for 4 points of life loss. Then you end your turn and you sacrifice the copy to the Reflection of Kiki-Jiki's clause, and you drain for 4 more points of damage. I don't even know how much damage that is, but it's probably enough.
No one can add that high.
Yeah, and you gain a proportional amount of life too, so it's pretty big. That's not even to mention all of the other stuff that's going on with this Preacher of the Schism, the Goblin Shaman token. If you can fatal push your opponent's creature along the way.
And on top of that, if for some reason Simon actually has a card that can deal with a Vein Ripper, he has to sacrifice a creature to deal with that. So he has
Yeah.
to like lose some of his position on the board.
Exactly. He has to give up so many resources to do it. Seth is gaining life along the way. So it's really like, it's not impossible to beat Vein Ripper. I've seen it happen before, but Simon would have to basically lose everything and then try to rebuild.
Yeah, we can see how like Simon's Saber plan of the showdown is kind of like turning against him now because he has those clunky 4-drop in a deck that just doesn't have enough land drops to play 4-drops. And in the meanwhile, Seth has a board state, and Simon wasn't able to play like cheap cantrips, maybe like Reckless Rage, you said it out, I don't know. So, kind of the go big Saber plan of Boros Heroic turning against him in this game. And I would say that the advantage bar now definitely favors Seth.
One cool thing is Seth took great effort to attack with Preacher of the Schism, which creates a 1/1 vampire token. Importantly, a white creature. So if we see a God's Willing to give protection from black, that's still a creature that Seth can block with, not have to lose his Reflection of Kiki-Jiki, not take too much damage to his own life total. He can do the same thing with Mutavault.
Yeah, in fact, he tapped in a weird way. Like when he tapped that way, I was like, wait, that's weird. Like, why did he tap this way? Because he wanted to have the Mutavault up, jump attack with Goblin Shaman to get a treasure to activate it for the same reason that Reed said, with keeping a colorless creature to block with. So now Simon is thinking about whether to block. Okay, so he's blocking the Death Edge creature, so I'm assuming now he's going to play probably Spikefield Hazard on I don't know. I would say that Simon is thinking about all this thing, plus you have the Vein Ripper Fable next turn play, which is just lethal on its own, so...
Yeah, I think Simon is probably seeing the writing on the wall that the game is going to end one way or another, basically next turn cycle.
There's that God's Willing you were talking about.
Okay. So this is a significant expenditure to not be able to use the God's Willing in his own combat step, but he's really valuing the Scry. He wants to pump up the Hoplite. What he really wants is a card that can give Trample, where he can threaten enough damage that the Vein Ripper will have to block and die in combat.
Yeah, so now Simon takes 2 from the Goblin, 2 from the Preacher, which gains 2, so it's going to be 15 to 10, and then passes the turn. Yeah.
And you talk about Trample, Ancestral Anger is that card, right?
Yep, Monstrous Rage can do it too, but I would say Ancestral Anger is probably the single best draw available to Simon right now.
Simon, end of turn, is thinking about whether to use a Spikefield Hazard to pump the Hoplite. Thinking about a streak of very good draws, like Ancestral Anger into Ancestral Anger into Monster's Rage.
He could use it to take out the Vampire token as well.
That looks like what he's doing here, right? Yep.
Drain again, though.
Wow.
Exile.
Oh, wow. That's true. Exiling a token. It's not a play you see every day. Another situation that came up in my tournament was the Leyline of the Void, Vein Reaper, little Nombo, where if you have a Leyline in play, which this deck plays in the sideboard, you don't drain them. So that is something that I didn't think of when...
How can Seth lose this game from here? Like, what is Simon's out?
Okay, Simon has drawn his card, and he does not have any way to kill Seth this turn. So the best he can hope for is that Seth loses one of his combo pieces in combat. So if Seth gives Simon credit for having some kind of really scary pump spell, he might choose to, say, trade his Vein Ripper against the favored Hoplite, or chump block with his Reflection of Kiki-Jiki, in which case Simon can get an additional turn. But let's be clear, this is a desperation attack.
Yeah, so we see open hand, Simon has nothing, so that's kind of like... But Seth doesn't know that, so he's thinking about what if he has Monstrous Rage. I would say that is the first thing I'm thinking. Okay, so Simon has Monstrous Rage. He puts that on the Hoplite, and then you just kind of start counting of what to do.
Now, a lot of people, might be watching and thinking, oh, Simon's not going to win. Why doesn't he just concede and move on to the next game? But I would counter that thought with, this is a 5-game set. So Simon really wants to act the same way, whether he has it or whether he doesn't have it. Because if he scoops this game, then next game faces a similar situation, makes a big attack. Seth is going to think, well, he probably has it this time because he didn't act the same way across the whole range of possibilities. So Simon thinking about that and just trying to disguise his intentions as much as possible.
Yeah, so here we are doing this block that's going to drain Simon for 9, and that is lethal. So yeah, wow. I did not expect Seth to win this match, but the soaring draw just turned his game around. Exactly what I was talking about before. Like, this is a mid-range deck with a combo in it. So a mid-range deck would have lost this game, but because Seth's deck has a combo in it, he was able to win.
Yeah, and you talked about Showdown of the Scalds, which that would be really scary. If you were trying to win with Reckoner Bankbuster and accumulated value.
Simon had that 4th land. He just played it as a spell. But Simon had the 4th land. So if the game slowed down, he would have played the 4th land tap, play Showdown next turn, played another one after, would have drawn 8 cards extra, and eventually probably grinded out the Rakdos deck. But no, you can't grind Vein Ripper. He came into play last turn, kills you next turn.
You don't grind Vein Ripper grinds you.
Brian, what are the rules here? Are the players who chose Simon and Seth going to get an award now?
No, it's going to be we're picking for match.
What if we do it now and then we choose another 2?
Well, we don't have any more commander decks, but it's your call.
I mean, we have some extra product.
We have secret layers.
We'll
use the secret layers. We won't open the secret layers ourselves. We'll actually give them away.
All right, who chose Seth Manfield to win?
Oh.
All right, let's give him.
We'll use the secret layers for later.
Okay, sorry.
You would do secret layer now? You do secret layer?
I don't know.
It's up to you.
What do you want?
I really wanted the deck, but I'll take whatever.
So we have a Dominaria Remaster Collector Boosters or a Ravnica Remaster Collector Boosters. What do you prefer, Dominaria or Ravnica?
What about the backpacks?
We'll do the backpacks. We'll hand them out at the end, I think.
It's fast. Enjoy. Congrats. Do we want to give it to the runner-up as well? All right. What's your name?
So are you changing your sideboard plan here at all?
Thank you. So,
like after the Showdown of the Scalds kind of?
Yeah, good question. So why might you change your sideboard? Answer number 1 is you're now on the draw instead of being on the play, from Seth's perspective. Answer number 2 is you have now seen more information about what your opponent's game plan is. And answer number 3 is you might want to just switch it up, keep your opponent guessing. Maybe you changed your mind about something. So it's definitely possible that we won't see the identical configuration in all of these sideboarded games, especially in the long set where the players want to be unpredictable and make it as hard as possible on the opponent.
See if we can glimpse anything again from the bottom of Simon's deck.
A big question is if Simon's going to have removal
Excuse me,
spells.
where's the bathroom?
Hey, that's cool.
Oh my God, look at that. Hold on. There we go. Oh my gosh, this is awesome.
Just sign it whatever you want.
Show it to everyone, Brian.
This was the game store I used to own. I opened it in 1995. Oh my gosh. Wow.
Just sign it, please.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Oh my gosh. I even still owned the store at that point.
Yeah. Thank you so much, man. I admire your work.
What's your name?
Harry.
Harry, thank you so much. That made my weekend. That was awesome.
For those who don't know, Brian is one of Magic's very early tournament organizers and a huge reason for the the competitive scene and the organized scene becoming what it is today.
This is going to be the 30th anniversary of the first tournament I ran. We
Amazing.
ran a tournament in 1994, November, for a set of Arabian Nights. Ooh.
What was the second prize?
Second prize was like 6 packs. It was single
remember.
elimination. It was.
See, 30 years later, single elimination tournaments still rock. You know, I did.
Yeah, I want to run a tournament in November somewhere with old school rules, everything, you know, to celebrate that.
For the
thing.
30th
Yeah,
anniversary.
yeah,
So
yeah.
cool. Such a good idea.
You know, Brian, that this December I visited New York for holiday, and I met Reed at the store in New York.
Yep.
We played Legacy.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it's nice. You still live in nearby New York?
I do. I'm just right outside. You didn't call me.
Yeah.
All right. While these guys are shuffling up here, I got to ask you a question. So you were in New York.
Yes.
You're in Chicago. You're Italian.
I know what's happening.
I need your pizza rankings for New York and Chicago, and then you could tell me where pick any city in Italy.
So I actually have never eaten the New York style pizza. I didn't. When I went to New York, I always had like, different type of
You went to
food.
Katz's Delicatessen.
What's that?
Did you go to Katz's Delicatessen? Did you
For
get
sure,
the
yeah.
pastrami sandwich that's like this high?
Amazing. Yeah. Also a lot of Japanese, Chinese,
Okay.
Chinatown, and everything. Because I don't get that much in Italy, so I enjoy New York. Me and my girlfriend love New York because of it's basically like the whole world in one city. Like, of course, it's a huge city, but like it's just the whole world is there, and it's fantastic. That is something that America has that not that many other.
All right, so I know you did have a Chicago deep dish pizza.
I did actually did that like a lot of times, many times at this point. I think 3 or 4. No, it's good. It's good. You can't eat more than one slice though. Like that is.
Is that a challenge?
No, I mean. I probably can, but you'll be like sick at night. At least me. So I try not to. I did it once. I went 4 times at a restaurant here and got pizza. Only once I got 2 slices and I felt it at the night. So now from now on, just 1.
Reed, you're a New Yorker. What's your take on Chicago versus New York pizza?
Well, like Mengu, I had some deep dish pizza while I was here. I enjoyed it, but I'll go for New York anytime.
Same, by the way. I'll go for the Italian style, which I guess in Italy we have plenty of different styles. My favorite is the Neapolitan one, where you have the thick,
like the bubbly crust.
Thick crust, and then it's very light in the middle, with not too much toppings, just some cheese, some tomatoes, but you have to feel the good ingredients. You don't have to be overloaded with them.
That's basically a New York slice you're describing.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. So.
What's your answer, Brian? Because I have a feeling you won't be quite as diplomatic.
No, look, I like a pizza casserole as much as the next person, right? But I'm a diehard New Yorker. I have a very specific New York pizza that I love, which is L&B Spumoni Gardens in Brooklyn, and it's a thick slice. It's like a Sicilian slice, but they put the cheese on top of the crust and then the sauce on top of the cheese, which is pretty unusual.
Yeah.
And their pans are they never clean them, and they just constantly use them over and over again. They're like blackened with age, and you can't get that. It's my favorite pizza. If anyone ever sees me in New York and is like, hey, can we go to L&B Spumoni Gardens? I'll get an Uber, and we'll just go to Spumoni Gardens. I've done this multiple times. I'm a third of my body mass is L&B Spumoni Gardens. So,
Yeah.
all right. But let's get back to Magic.
Okay, so Simon kept the hand without a 1-drop creature, but does he have 10th District Legionnaire that's going to hit the bin? Wow, Simon hand actually doesn't look good after this Thoughtseize. Wait, that's a duress.
Correction. It's a duress, so it can't take the creature, but you're
Can't do
absolutely
that,
right.
can't do that.
It's risky for Simon to keep this hand because if he loses the creature, then he could peter out. On the other hand, it's always a catch-22. You mulligan looking for something specific against the Thoughtseize deck, it could get taken away from you.
Yeah, mulliganing against the Thoughtseize deck is never the right choice. But Seth doesn't have any removal spells, so that creature Didn't have thoughts. He doesn't have removal spell. So that 10th District Legionnaire. Ooh.
Oh, he's going to go for the Virtuoso.
Okay.
Did he just rip that?
Yep.
He did.
Yeah.
Remember, Discus Spell cannot discard the top of the deck. That's one of the weakness. They should really make it, though. They should really make a card of that.
Look at
did,
target
they
opponent's hand and the top card of their library.
That's a card. I played with it before. I think it's called something Nightmare, and it's from Time Spiral. Anyone?
Wait, really?
Yeah, it's like no Psychotic Episode. Somebody in the chat knows you get a pack if you can name this card, but no cheating. You have to know it from memory. No one?
Wow, I don't remember this card.
All right,
at
so we look up Psychotic Episode from Time Spiral. Black 1 Madness, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, we're looking for something better, though, Reed. It has to be a 1 mana. Can't spend 3 mana on a Discus Spell.
Yeah, Phyrexian mana, maybe like a Phyrexian black.
Yeah.
Psychotic Episode, everyone.
Reed
They
has
can
played
pick the top
every
card of
black
the-
card.
You can pick the top card.
Yeah.
Reed has played
That's
every
insane.
black card possible. So,
He's like, I tested that for a week in Jund.
yeah.
Sometimes Thoughtseize isn't legal. You got to go pretty deep.
Yeah, you discard it off of Fable. The Thoughtseize for free.
Ooh.
So I'll mention this game started with Seth mulliganing, and I noticed when he was looking at his opening hand that it was like you said, Mengu lands and spells. But Seth decided that he needed something a little more special for the game on the draw. He wanted something that he could play for 1 or at least 2 mana. So he did decide to take a mulligan. Seth is kind of famous
Yeah.
for like people believe he never mulligans, and it's true. You know, we saw him keep a 1-lander in a
Yeah.
previous game. But he is, you know, he knows the time and the place for a good mulligan. So just keep an eye on a player like Seth to surprise you and make some out of character decisions when the game is on the line.
Does he do that in playtesting also? Or is it like jazz? Like when he's playtesting, is he just like making all the plays and then he knows where he can riff?
Yeah, I think he goes by feel a lot.
Okay.
I think Seth is the type of person that if you gave him the same play on 2 different days, he could be capable of making different decisions.
Like a bones, no bones kind of thing?
Yeah, you know.
Mulligan, no mulligan day with Seth Manfield. We just give him the same hand every day, and then we decide, and that's going to be how the day is going to go.
All right, so Simon has played that 10th District Legionnaire that we knew about. What does Seth draw? A Soaring to close this? Oh, a Rending Volley. Nice. That is another removal spell, so yeah.
So
You've been bitten by the vampires, Andrea. You're like, supposed to be objective.
No, yeah, I was happy. Yeah,
I know, I love
I
it.
started
I'm
saying
kidding.
that I root for Simon, but I feel like you can see that I'm actually rooting for vampires.
So an interesting conceptual decision for Seth. Do you use the Rending Volley, which has the more immediate impact, takes Simon's important creature off the battlefield, or do you make the mana-efficient play of tapping all 3 lands for Fable of the Mirror Breaker?
Yeah, so I feel like I would have played Fable there because you don't use your mana well here. Because, like, sure, you're attacking for 2, but it doesn't matter. And, like, it's not that the 10th... I guess Rending Volley isn't Fatal Push. Like, if Simon draws, like, a bunch of... Even a single Olmsted Courage could put the 10th District Legionnaire out of the range of Rending Volley. So this was actually the right play.
Great point.
Unsurprisingly, Seth Manfield made the right play. As a joke. Okay, Simon draws another creature.
So this is exactly what you were talking about with Rending Volley. Hoplite is not a creature. If like, the Rending Volley, he can...
Yeah, what does Rending Volley say? Can't be countered, can't be prevented?
Can be countered. So, for
Okay.
example, if you target
Okay.
Amalia, you don't have to pay the ward.
Okay.
That came
But-
up in
but-
my match.
But Favored Hoplite will still prevent the
Yeah,
damage?
for
Okay.
sure. For sure. That's... I am going to say that that's how it works. Okay, wow, look at that. Simon drew the... I don't know if you can remember the name, but like the pump spell. So the 10th District Legionnaire would have been bigger than 4.
Sure. Defiant Strike.
Yeah. Okay, that's a Fable. And next turn, we can already see the Vein Ripper in play with a jump attack from the Shaman. Simon is just holding a land in end. But it's a Ganjo, so it's kind of a spell.
So Seth can't jump here.
Whoa.
Oh, wow. Probably the single best card in Simon's deck to draw here, Showdown of the Scalds. So in a game that was shaping up to end in a couple of turns, Simon is now going to get to use those last couple of turns very, very well, very explosively.
Basically just drew 4 cards.
Yeah, perhaps even better because Chapter 2 and Chapter 3 of Showdown are really powerful in this deck to distribute counters. You cast a lot of spells, you make your creatures huge. I mean, now this is one of the games where Simon's creatures might actually outclass Vayne Ripper.
Greg here?
Wow. And in comes the Hoplite.
It's fine if he isn't.
Yeah, there you see, and he gets a land off of that, and next turn can really just play everything, right?
Yes.
He can go really wide here.
So Seth has a few options available. Just at face value, he can make the play that Andrea laid out for us, which is attack, make a treasure, play Vayne Ripper. Or, he can use Fable Chapter 2 to try to do even better than that, like dig for some removal spells or a Sorin. I think he'll discard at least 1 land here, but could do more. Thoughtseize very ineffective against the cards exiled with Showdown.
Yeah. I mean, is there a card that does that, Reed?
No, not to my knowledge.
Well, then it doesn't exist.
You have to discard the card drawn and counter all the effects that happen in the game. All right, there we see 6 mana Vayne Ripper. So yeah, similarly to what happened game 2, Simon has the card advantage flowing with Showdown, but there's a Vayne Ripper on the other side. The problem is that Simon has 1 turn ahead here. Like, he resolved that Showdown before Seth played that Vayne Ripper.
And Simon has, drawn a card for the turn, so what are we going to do here?
So with access to 6 mana, we'll expect Simon to use all of the spells that are exiled with Showdown. He'll get to draw an additional one off of Defiant Strike. He'll get to trigger Prowess. He'll get to distribute counters.
Guys, I actually have to go. My flight in an hour and a half.
Oh.
So I was really hoping this thing finished before. I really hope to catch the flight. I got the right to go, so thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Andrea.
Good luck.
Congratulations.
Good luck to every player.
We'll be watching.
Here.
I'll let out one last
give out those
I'll let out
boosters.
one last booster before going. Bye.
All right, so 10th District, Monastery Swift Spear, gets to put a counter now on the 10th District that he just played.
So Simon's objective is to make his creatures able to trade with or beat Vayne Ripper in combat, and then make an attack such that Seth has to block.
So where do you point the Defiant Strike here?
I think you want to target the favored Hoplite with at least 1 card, because then it's guaranteed to not die against the Vayne Ripper. However, you could the favorite Hoplite's already quite large, so you could take the alternative approach of just putting an extra counter on it. But this is why Simon is being so thoughtful. It's obvious he wants to play all of his spells. It's not obvious how he wants to deploy them and distribute the counters.
Nice little, he gets to scry and then figure out if he's going to draw.
Yeah, a lot of subtle, cool stuff going on with the Boros Heroic deck.
And we see he does have a Lorien's Escape in his hand.
Yup, so that means that any creature blocked by Vayne Ripper can survive. It can even be another Worth another 2 points of damage if he targets an unblocked heroic creature and puts a counter from Showdown of the Scalds on an unblocked creature. So is that a 5/6 favored hoplite, a 5 or a 6/5 10th District Legionnaire? He's getting close.
The question is, when you swing in with the Monastery Swift Spear too, because Seth can't. You're happy if Seth decides to block that.
Good question. So if Seth blocks the Swift Spear, there's 11 damage unblocked, and we said the Lauren's Escape could be worth 2 more. So by my count, Seth can choose to block the Swift Spear and not die. Now, of course, Simon can Lauren's Escape the Swift Spear itself and not lose any creatures.
That didn't look like that was Seth blocking. I think he might have been asking to just confirm power there.
I think that's exactly what's happening. He said, how big is this?
And so it has 1 prowess trigger.
I believe that's correct.
Yeah. All right. Seth's going to go for it. He's going to block the Monastery Swift Spear.
So Seth is accepting that certain cards kill him here. Monstrous Rage. I think Defiant Strike would be just enough.
Now Simon's trying to figure out if he can get... What is Simon trying to figure out? If he's going to save his Swift Spear or just like push Seth to 1 or 2?
Yeah, it appears that Seth is going to get another turn. So Simon's choice basically is save the Swift Spear or save the Lauren's Escape for a future moment.
Just not do anything.
He could if, the graphic was helpful a moment ago. It showed Path of Peril on the screen, which is a card that certainly Seth is hoping to draw, but more importantly, Simon has to prepare for that. He has to navigate the game in a way that he doesn't lose it all to Path of Peril, unless he decides that that's the calculated risk he wants to take.
So definitely casting Escape, and he does save the Swift Spear.
Yep, so the Swift Spear is not going to be large enough to beat Vein Ripper in combat. With the second prowess trigger, it's a 3/4, so the best he could do is make it a 4/5, not enough.
He's really agonizing here. Very deliberate. He has a scry. Okay.
So now the question becomes, can Seth kill Simon? Fire up 2 Mutavaults, attack with all your creatures. That's going to be 12 damage.
Wow.
So combined with removal spell, a Sorin, a Path of Peril, we'll see.
Path of Peril would be lethal because of all the Vein Drape
Exactly, yeah.
triggers.
Attack for 8, kill 4 creatures, drain for 8. That would be lethal if Seth is fortunate enough to find it. Is that how the Pro Tour is going to end?
That would be insane. You can tell Marshall and Monty are talking about Path of Peril. Can he rip it? He's holding a Thoughtseize. What's the other card he's holding?
Sorin!
Oh my God.
What does that mean? So he can attack for 10 and Lightning Helix for 3 + 2. It's 15. Are we really watching a game where both players were 1 point away from killing the opponent on back-to-back turns? Okay, so if that doesn't work for Seth, he could choose to put a counter on the Vein Ripper and make it a 7-power lifelinking creature. He could choose to kill off one of Simon's creatures, like the Monastery Swift Spear. That's surely better than dealing 3 damage to Simon's life total directly, because it will result in another Vein Ripper trigger also. He has to think about, if he's not winning the game, he has to think about blocking and surviving. So, you know, do you want to leave a colorless creature? If you're worried about God's Willing, do you want to leave your Vein Drinker back on defense? So many things running through Seth's head right now.
And Simon's right, just thinking about Ancestral Anger.
Yeah. Ancestral Anger into more action. Seth is also very close to activating the Mutavaults, making a big attack, and then getting a treasure, but it's not quite enough mana to cast Sorin post-combat.
All right, so here comes Sorin.
Remember that Reflection of Kiki Jiki has Summoning Sickness, so no shenanigans there.
That would be very easy mode. Like if this comes back to Seth in any way, this Pro Tour is over.
Correct. Unless Simon makes an attack where Seth has to lose a lot of material in blocking.
Is it Vein Drinker, Sorin, go?
Yeah, I mean, I think Seth is going to want to gain some life here in some form, which would mean either plussing on the Vein Drinker and attacking with it, or using a Mutavault for the Lightning Helix ability of Sorin. That's a decent option because of all the additional Vein Drinker triggers. So, okay, you know, I'll outline two possible options. One is plus on Vein Ripper, attack with Vein Ripper, go. The other is attack with Goblin Shaman, activate the tapped Mutavault, and use Sorin to trade the tapped Mutavault for the Monastery Swift Spear. Those are the two that jump to mind for me. I'm sure there's more that Seth is thinking about.
Well, he went with the lifelink play.
Sure.
Wow, you can see his hand shaking there.
Yeah, of course.
Oh my gosh! Seth Manfield wins his, we think, 4th Pro Tour. What an unbelievable. Has not top 8 at a tabletop event since we've been back to doing these live events. And here he is. It's like he never left. But he didn't, because he's been here doing really well the whole time. But now another top 8, and now a huge win for Seth Manfield. And by the way, don't feel too bad for Simon Nielsen in his 4th consecutive Pro Tour high-level competition top 8. Just an unbelievable run. Yeah, two great players. Reed, any closing thoughts here?
Just, of course, amazing show from both players. I mean, amazing from our perspective as fans of the game. To be able to watch a match like this is so cool. Seth, even though he's been here before, this is a person that I know it just means so much to him. He loves Magic so much, and he thrives on the competition. So to be here and to be able to say, hey, I can still do this,
yeah,
I just know it's going to be huge for Seth. You can see it on his face.
Yeah. And you know, we talked about Simon's sportsmanship and his demeanor, and you could see even in a loss, he's the same. He's just like enjoying himself, and a little emotion from Seth there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Unbelievable. All right, let's give some stuff away here.
Good idea.
Let's give some stuff away. All right. We got a couple things left here. Hey, Reed, before we do that, we're not giving this away. Why don't you tell people about this? Because this is kind of awesome.
I encountered this card for the very first time yesterday. It is called the Duke of Midrange. Green, red, black, 2. I'm honored. It's so cool.
Yeah, this is from Gavin Verhey's Unknown event. If you've never gotten a chance to play in one of these at a MagicCon, you absolutely need to do it. He makes up these weird cards. He made cards for a lot of different people from the community. I actually got on a card. It's called the Beleaguered Boxer. I've been doing the Commandered Boxing League. I was like, why am I beleaguered? And he's like, league, dummy. You know. And it's super cool. I can't wait to get my hands on one. Just been an amazing event this weekend. So let's go out and give some stuff away. And we're going to say thank you to you guys. We're going to bring up the audio, let people do this stuff. But thank you so much for coming and watching us with us.
Let's do a little love in this section. Put your hands up. Who wants it?
All right.
close to win off of that showdown. I mean, he was one damage going back the other way. But yeah, Seth Manfield is your champion. Thank you so much for joining us in the booth here. That's Monty DeVudy. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe, and we're going to send it back over to Maria at the news desk.
Congratulations once again to Seth Manfield, your Pro Tour Murders at Karlov Manor champion. What a fantastic end to our Pro Tour weekend we've had here in Chicago. Just an incredible victory. And there you can see Seth, the moment of victory. Hey everybody, welcome back to the news desk. Maria Bertholdi and Cedric Phillips here with you now. Cedric, your thoughts on our finals?
Awesome, awesome, awesome match. Fatal pushes everywhere, making life very difficult for Simon, of course, and that Boros Heroic deck, which would prefer, for its creatures to not be messed with. But the thing that made the matchup really tough is just a lot of interactions on Seth's side, between the discard, giving you perfect information on what Simon has outside of the draw steps, and of course, fatal push and timely removal, and then a quick clock. Once Vein Ripper's on the battlefield, it does not take much longer after that, Maria.
And indeed, with the deck of the tournament, Cedric.
Yeah, you know, again, we've said it multiple times here this weekend, starting on Friday, especially when Frank broke down that metagame of there's some people playing Rakdos Vampires, and we don't know for sure how good it is, and they don't know for sure how good it is either, but they're pretty confident that their deck is good, and they were pretty right. Sam Pardee, Seth Manfield into the top 8. Luis Scott Vargas just missed out on making the top 8 with the deck. So Team Channel Fireball, they crushed it.
Absolutely they did. Seth Manfield, your champion. It's time now for the trophy presentation. I'm going to send it on over to Riley Knight.
Hello everyone and welcome to the feature match area for the very last time here at Pro Tour Murders at Karlov Manor, where I'm standing with the champion, Seth Manfield. Congratulations, my friends. That was an incredible match, one for the ages. I can see that you're coming down off what must be a huge roller coaster of emotions, because that match had it all. Talk us through what was going through your head during that match.
Yeah, I mean, I was super scared of playing Simon. He's been on such a crazy run of late that I didn't feel like the favorite, even though I do think my deck might have, you know, had been slightly better in the matchup. I was able to kind of sequence my removal, and then I drew the Splinter Twin combo, as they're starting to call it, the Sorin plus Vein Ripper. Yeah, maybe I sided out a couple copies of Vein Ripper, but that didn't end up mattering because I still drew them together. So that ended up working out pretty well. And, you know, it's just kind of a trading back and forth resources game. He top tech showdown, and, you know, I thought at that point we were going to a 5th game, but yeah, no, it was fun. It's been a great tournament. I think I played well, but at the same time, like, the games have been great. Pioneers, fantastic. And hey, our team came with a deck that nobody was playing. So that just means that you can get in there and find a deck, and it can be good. And yeah, so I'm really happy about that.
And you should be, mate. All sorts of uncovered secrets remaining maybe in Pioneer for people to find out. But I want to talk more personally what this means to you. Another top finish for you, another Pro Tour championship for you as well. I can sort of tell that this is something that, you know, right now you're in the middle of processing. There's probably some emotions going through your mind and your heart right now. Do you want to let us know what this means to you in your career?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time, Riley. Like 2017, however many years that, like 7 years has passed. Like, a lot has happened in Magic throughout the game. I don't know that I'm considered one of the best players anymore. I certainly have been, certainly in the history of the game, but like recently, you know, I don't know, but this probably helps that. You know, I just want to say it's great. Winning a Pro Tour, it's, for most people, it's a once-in-a-lifetime achievement. And, you know, it's amazing. I want to thank my teammates, Paul Rietzel, who started the Vampires train, all the guys who showed up, and the Channel Fireball Ultimate Guard crew were in the house testing. I was at home with my family. I had obligations to take care of, and they were out there on Discord messaging me, letting me know what was going on. I want to say thank you to my wife and my daughter Eve and my son Parker. And yeah, I'm a little bit emotional. I'm trying not to get overly...
Mate, let it out. Let's see it. Oh, we were so proud of you as the Magic community. Seth Manfield, a 2-time Pro Tour champion. Seth, congratulations to you, mate. Very, very richly earned. There's nothing left for us to do than to present Seth here. Mate, if you've got the room for it in the cabinet,
It is Seth Manfield, a Pro Tour champion 2 times over.
And there is your champion, Seth Manfield, with the deck of the tournament in Rakdos Vampire, Cedric.
High fives all around and well earned for Seth Manfield. As Riley mentioned, a 2-time Pro Tour champion, a former world champion, a Hall of Famer. There's nothing he hasn't done, and every time he has taken a long break, he comes back and just starts winning again. And boy, is he back once again.
Absolutely. So excited to see him. You heard him say it there too. I don't know if people have been thinking of me recently as one of the greats in the game, but they certainly have in the past. Cedric, he puts himself right back into that conversation.
He absolutely does, Maria. He is one of the best to ever play the game. He was winning at a very young age. I met Seth at the early parts of the 2010s. He was kicking my butt then. He's kicking everybody's butt now. He takes a break. He comes back, finishes school, has a couple of kids, decides I'm going to play some more Magic again, and look at this, another trophy shot for him. I don't know how much space is left on that mantle, but I got to make a little bit more for this Pro Tour.
Absolutely. Congratulations once again to Seth Manfield, our champion. Well, at the start of the weekend, 258 players arrived here in the Windy City with big dreams of blowing away the competition. Joined by thousands of fans from around the world, the magic really was in the gathering here this weekend. From draft in the morning, proving you never truly solve a limited format until you play it at the Pro Tour, to Pioneer in the afternoons, which showcased a format that rewards deck mastery and that is chock full of fantastic options. But after 3 grueling days of battle, one player remains standing. Congratulations once again to your Pro Tour Murders at Karlov Manor champion, Seth Manfield, with the deck of the tournament, Rakdos Vampires. Ripping veins and taking names indeed. We'll see you in Seattle for the next Pro Tour, everybody. Have a great night.